Here's our first 7, and I love this. This is a turn 1 tithe. Like, yeah, these are just great mulligans. I don't know what to tell you guys. I told you guys, like, the card quality is just high. What's up, y'all? It's TTC, aka the ThunderConductor, and welcome back to this YouTube video and Twitch stream. If you're on YouTube, make sure you like and subscribe, and make sure if you're on Twitch, make sure to follow and ring that bell. But with that said, let's get straight into the deck tech, man. We are starting off notably with Scion, a deck I notably have not touched in, honestly, like, dog. I was playing Wargorger Dragon back when I was playing this deck, man. Like, I kid you not, it has been a very, very long time, but why now? Well, to be truthful and honest, it's just been a long time. It's been a super, super long time. It's been nearly a year since my last deck tech, and over a year since the last time I've showed you all anything having to do with Scion in cEDH or ThunderDH. And honestly, I've been holding back for y'all. I've really been holding back because truthfully, I've been cooking. I've truly been cooking. And truthfully, like I said, if you saw the short or the clip for this, over the last 6 months, I've been honing and tweaking this list ever since we got Colossal Grave Reaver from the Tokyo DragonStorm set. And over the last 6 months, I've been revamping this list and been able to hold a 65% win rate. And to be honest, this deck is like on easy mode. So if you're looking for a dragon deck to kick ass on easy mode and you just like good stuff, all the other stuff, this is the deck for you. All right. But with that said, before we get into anything, I want to give a humongous shout out to the ThunderConductor community. This is an amazing community of individuals who love to brew cEDH and ThunderDH lists, as well as compete in our TC Slayer system, which we play gameplay where you take your home brews and your tournament viable lists and take them to the next level to win prizes and all the other good stuff. Not to mention, if you are looking to level up your game and get access to another TC Slayer belt, make sure to check out the Level Up Crew, the exclusive space within the TC community where we help your game move to the next level, all around the values of accountability, curiosity, mutual respect, and teachability, all around a growth mindset. So if any of that sounds great to you, check out the ThunderConductor community Discord, link in the bio. But let's get back to it. We talking about Scion, dog. Come on. Notably, if you're not familiar with my version of Scion, if you haven't been keeping up with me on Moxfield, notably, Scion of the Earth Dragon is a Wooburg deck, and I personally built it to be 5-color turbo good stuff with a light reanimator package. All right. With that being said, if you're not familiar with the card itself, yeah, it's flying and it has the ability, which is super, super cool, which is pay 2, and you get to search your library for a dragon permanent card, put it into your graveyard, and if you do, Scion of the Earth Dragon becomes a copy of that card until the end of turn. Then you shuffle your library. All right. So it becomes a 4/4 and it moves from a 4/4 into whatever you turn it to. So it's really, really simple. You know what I'm saying? Like, especially since we got the new Colossal Grave Reaver from the Tokyo DragonStorm set, like I keep saying, it allows you to do this really cool combo with Hoarding Brute Lore, where it's now just 10 mana win the game. And truthfully, I'm not gonna lie, like, I love that. I don't know another deck in our format that can do everything that Scion can all within one package. But let's talk a little bit more about the deck identity. Notably, why Reanimator? Well, truthfully, it's 2 main reasons. A, because of our commander having access now to Hoarding Brute Lord and Colossal Grave Reaver from the command zone, it honestly is the Entomb or Reanimation effect all within the command zone. Not to mention, since we are just doing a Breach Thassa's strategy in this list, it turns out that all the pieces that support both Underworld Breach strategies and Thassa's Oracle strategies just get enhanced by running reanimated package cards like Entomb, Saw in Half, Shallow Grave, Necromancy for a lot of really cool, powerful turbo and instant speed lines. But with all that said, notably, if you aren't familiar with my style of play, before I get into this deck tech, I am a turbo consistent mid-range adaptive player, and I have adopted and named my style, notably the ThunderStorm style, where we play mostly to our hand and we usually have a light board state. If you see me in the mid game, I usually only got like a draw engine, a mana generator like a Tithe or a Lothar or whatever not, maybe a Scion on board, and I'm just waiting for that opportunity to present an instant speed or silence protected win. With that being said, that means this deck is honed for my playstyle. So as we go through, if you ever have any questions, don't just drop your questions in Twitch or in YouTube. Also just be like, hold on T, that's not really my playstyle. And I'll say, hey y'all, it's cool. Make the adjustments for your deck. This is honed for my playstyle. But I want to talk about why Scion, okay? I talked about it just a little bit, and truthfully, one of the strongest reasons why I would recommend Scion above many other 5 color commanders is because it has something that I keep referring to being the 10 mana win the game. And what I'm referring to is what Scion is able to do is if you cast Scion for Wooburg mana and you have 5 additional colorless mana, you're able to go 2 activations back to back by holding priority to put Colossal Grave Reaver into the graveyard, and then follow that up by putting Hoarding Brootlord in the graveyard, and then that will trigger Colossal Grave Reaver, the Scion version, while it's still in the graveyard, and then put it back into play, being your Hoarding Brootlord. When that ETB goes in the stack from Hoarding Brootlord, you're going to find your Saw and a Half, and if you only have 1 more colorless mana, it just means you just do the Saw and a Half combo. And what I usually do is instead of doing the Underworld Breach plus LED, which a lot of other pilots do, I do Burnt Offering into Underworld Breach, which also allows you to recast your Saw and a Half from the graveyard, get your LED and Brain Freeze, and then you just win with a regular Breach combo. That's 10 mana. Name another deck that can do that. I'll wait. There's not one. So with all that being said, that's why we love this deck. 10 mana win the game is really good. It's not our first strategy. We usually do play more to the hand, like I keep referring to. We are doing more of that thing, but ultimately I love it. And it's what I really love about this commander most is that despite of its power from the command zone, we don't need to lean on our command zone. One common thing you'll also see from me in gameplay videos is that Scion, or if I'm even playing Tiamat, it stays in the command zone and it really never like leaves unless I need it to come out. And so what ends up happening is like, all right, cool, I'm doing my thing, and the game will be over and they'll be like, hey, yo, like, do you even need Scion? I'm like, sometimes not. But what I really implore from people who brew any of my decks is understanding, don't see the command zone just as colors, but at the same time, don't see the command zone as an anchor that if you don't cast your commander, you haven't fulfilled the requirements to play the deck. The command zone is just another option that we use, or that I use, to make the take the deck from like a 5-color Reanimator slop from like Tiamat, or like 5-color like Breach Thassa's stuff, into this supercharged deck that can really, as I love to say, break the meta. All right, so if you're ever really wondering why I play this deck, that's really why. It's just 10 mana, win the game. And also, you don't need the commander to win because the card quality we get access to is so high, because you get access to every card ever printed in Magic's history, give or take a ban list. Of course. With that said, let me talk about the evolution of this deck. And it's gone through a lot. If you all are not familiar, I had an old Scion list where we were doing a lot. I was doing World Gorger Dragon, Infinite Mana to put into things like Realm Scorcher, Hellkite, and then to put in things into Niv Minnett, Draco Genius. And back to my old Scion list, Scion's Uproar. I loved this list, and right after the bans happened, where we lost Dockside, this along as Marnius Calgary was the list I jumped to after I really didn't know what to do. I was playing Saya Aetherflux Genius. It had really sick Dockside plus Baron Master Wizard lines. Shout out to the people who supported me when I played that deck. It was honestly, to this day, I still have it sleeved, because if they ever unban Dockside, I'm going to play that deck again. And I really loved it. I loved the fact that you could just get one of the recruiters and just win the game. And you have breach lines. And at the time, because we had Dockside, lines like the 3 Fairy plus Displacerkin weren't really that expensive or like unfeasible to do, because we had Dockside. But when Dockside got banned, I was like, man, I got to find something different. And I have to give a huge humongous shout out. I actually go to my primer real quick. Shout out to my homie. Is this deck still in here? I hope so. Jay, or Jai, which however you pronounce it. I'm sorry, brother. But I always give him flowers because he was the first guy to ever like really show me what he was doing with Scion and like break down why he thought it was such a good commander while no one was looking at it. And I'm talking about well over a year ago. I'm talking about no Takir out, none of that stuff. It was just like the regular stuff you were doing. And I really looked at this and I was like, I really think you can consolidate this list down and do some broken things. And I ain't gonna tell you how to build your list. I'm gonna just build my own list like this. So it did a lot of cool things. Basically, we only ran 4 dragons, like I said, World Gorger Dragon, and then 2 Outlet Dragons. And then we also had Ancient Silver Dragon at the time to do some card draw effects, and all that was cool. It got the job done. And this deck, of course, as you can see it, if I quickly show the 99, it straight up is like a very much like a mid-range consistent deck that had a potential to go turbo. Like we could go fast here and there, but it was much more of a mid-range deck. We were trying to grind things out, not to today's standards. We're talking about pre-slop standards, which was still good, but it was like, it's cool. You know what I'm saying? Like this is even back in the day when I still ran 28 lands consistently. You know, it was a whole different deck. However, when we talk to modern Scion of the Earth Dragon, the deck is literally, I mean, if you can't, let me put back to the comparison feature real quick. The deck is 33 cards different, bro. Let me just put this in comparison. My Scion to Tiamat list is 19 cards different, okay? The fact that one Scion is different from another Scion by 33 cards, it just means that, I'm gonna be honest, like the deck is completely revamped. There is no way to compare or say, oh, this or that. No, it's complete remake and remodel. So as we do this deck tech, I'm not going to be doing my regular one-to-one comparisons from the old versus new, because the whole core identity of the list changed, not from the fact that our commander combo went from a 1-card combo with the Reanimator enchantments with Wargulcher Dragon into a 0-card combo with Colossal Grave Reaver and Hoarding Brute Lord. It completely changed now to where we're doing turbo consistent with mid-range adaptive. We are doing a 0-card combo line with Hoarding Brute Lord and Colossal Grave Reaver, like i.e. a double tutor like we talked about before. And ultimately, it's just a better overall card quality across the deck. Like if we can quickly just scan over this, like this is back in the day where I ain't gonna knock these cards. I still love them, but we was running things like Angel's Grace, not for like slop reasons, but like other things. We was throwing stuff like Strict Serenade. I love Sync, but you know, now they're on Ad Nauseam, for example. And let me see, where's that book at? Yeah, we're on Ad Nauseam in the new list. We can't run stuff like Singing is Stupid. We had the Fairy Mastermind, and notably a card that I'm trying to get into this current list. This was back when we saw Archivist, and shout out to the One Ring when it was still commonly played. I'm talking about we were playtesting Psychic Frog. This was Swords to Plowshare meta, all this other stuff. So I'm just gonna keep saying this. If you loved this old version of Scion, have at it. It's still, I'm sure you can be made some tweaks, make it work, probably do some enchantment clones, do a full slop thing if you want to. But if you want to go fast, but also be able to hang into the mid to late game, this is currently the deck you're looking at. This Dark Dragon Farm is where you want to be at. Uncontested, no extra talking to have to do about that. But with that being said, the last thing I have to bring up some elephants in the room, which is as I scan and trim through the list, you're going to see a lot of pilots have been talking about their variant of Scion. But if you see in mine, I'm not running some key creatures, okay? Notably, I'm not running Korvold. I'm not running Prismari, and I'm not running Dragon Lord Dromoka. All right, these cards do not suck, and I'll give you all the TLDR and the long reason why this isn't so. But ultimately, I'm intentionally choosing not to run them. It's not a mistake. So if you're looking for that deck tech, you're at the wrong deck tech. It's fine. We're trying to do better stuff for TTC and all the other people who want to go quickly. But if you like those strategies, all love to you. Check out the Tiamat primer if you're looking for something else to do something different. But with that being said, let's break this down just a hair bit. First is the misconception. There is no one way to build Scion in the modern era. We have right now people building turbo like me with Hoarding Brute Lord, Colossal Grave Reaver, keep it really simple. We have people doing turbo where they're doing Prismari and Korvold, and they'll still do Ad Nauseam, but they don't want to have a 0-card combo in their command zone. We got people doing slop where they'll use Prismari to use super counter spells and storm off like that. And they're more of like doing enchantment clones. When they finally cast Scion, it's more of like activate 2, and then when they cast their counter spells or tutors or other effects, they get a lot of copies of it. Or on the flip side, we have some people doing, which is the most popular variant right now, the Korvold plus maybe Prismari, where it's basically Secret Commander Korvold, where they're running everything from Storm Killing Artist, Smothering Tithe, Lotho, all the treasure enablers. So once you cast your commander, you don't really need Colossal Grave Reaver because you just go bop da boop bop. You just start cracking treasures and winning the game. Now, if you want the long version, I'm going to put it on the screen because I really did take my time and I gave you all a full miniature dissertation of why I'm not running Korvold or Prismari. So I'm gonna leave this on the screen while I hit on just the little quick things. But if you just want the long version, here it is on the screen right here. But if you want the short version, is my play style is I'm not a non-deterministic storm player. I'm very much, I love deterministic. If I'm going to storm, I want to have a finite destination. So we're talking about breach LED brain freeze. Yes, I'm storming, but in reality, I'm just trying to clean up that game. You know what I'm saying? We all know once you see breach LED brain freeze, people are like, all right, GG, you got a Thassa's, you got a redirect lightning or deflecting SWAT to protect against channel effects. All right, yeah, GG, you got it, bro. You know what I'm saying? Nice and simple like that. However, when you run cards like Korvold or Prismari, they're asking for you to non-deterministically flow through your library. And because my play style doesn't really flow like that, ultimately, it just didn't fit my mold as a player, like my player profile. Not to say the cards are bad or they don't work, because they obviously do work. People are killing it in the tournament scene. But when it comes to TTC, I brew to me, not to what the meta does. You know what I'm saying? Like if anybody's gonna be net decking, they're gonna net deck my decks, not the other way around. Of love. But with that said, that's just a TLDR. The longer breakdown is ultimately the really big thing about this deck is that the burden isn't proving these cards are powerful. The burden is proving if these cards are necessary. All right. So when it comes down to these cards, I questioned with a 0-card combo that you need no cards in hand, just 10 mana to win. Do you need Korvold or Prismari? Like, truthfully, do you need them? You know what I'm saying? Like, if you want to play them, yeah, they're powerful. They're very cracked. You're going to win games consistently. But I question, do I need to run those cards in order to have a powerful Scion list and to fit my player profile? And ultimately, after really breaking things down and really looking at myself, from everything from the fact that I run ad nauseum in my list and I don't want more reasons, I don't want more high CMC dragons in the list, to the fact that Hoarding Brute Lord and Colossal Grave Reaver fit a mold of being part of our 0-card combo, but have their individual combo piles. For all these other reasons, not to mention that if I did run Korvold, I don't think I have the treasure package to support it. Not to mention even Prismari, like from the CMC being high and all the other things, like I ultimately felt that, dude, I have to stop trying to copy other people or force other people's ideologies and philosophies to fit my mold. When reality is just like, hey, it's okay. Like, it's just not for me. You know what I'm saying? But if you think these are great, please have at it. But definitely, if you want TTC's full breakdown, here's the gist of it. Don't feel bad if you do want to run. I definitely go over fully why I run these cards and don't do it, but don't feel really pressed about it. But the last one I do want to touch on is a really powerful one that I've left out the list intentionally, and it's Dragon Lord Dromoka. And Dragon Lord Dromoka is one I also left out the list intentionally. It's a 6-mana silence effect. All right, so it is basically, if I was playing Tiamat, and we're going to be talking about that list later on, being able to do stuff like, all right, Dracogenesis, casted, Dream Halls, casted, Dragonstorm, casted, Show and Tell, get it on board. No one cares about 6 mana. But when we're hard casting this junk, that 6 mana can be felt. Even though we do have a Reanimator package, it can be felt. So from hard casting it from hand, also just not really wanting to have to hit another dragon off of our ad nauseum when we're going for like a turn 2 to 3 ad nauseum, sometimes even some turn 1 ad nauseums. We really don't want to see this as a silence effect. And the biggest thing is, like, people talk about like silence at the command zone. It's really busted, dude. You get a silence at the command zone. What you doing, TTC? Like, this is so busted. And I say back, yeah, guys, it is roasted. You're correct. However, when it comes down to it, you're going to cast your Scion. You'll do your double activation into a third activation. And what your opponents have is they have this huge window for spot removal and just on-stack silence effects, where they can either remove your Scion before it lands into a Dragon Lord Dromoka, or they can just cast silence and you can't combo off that turn. Now, you can still win an instant speed later on, but then at that point, the fact that your Dragon Lord Dromoka is, first of all, your Scion won't be a Dragon Lord Dromoka anymore. But then on top of that, you'll have this, it just creates a window where it's just like, yeah, like, man, it's 12 mana protected silence, but for what gain? And then I thought about it a little deeper, and I was like, hold on. If I just run Voice of Victory and Grand Abolisher, or even the new She-Hulk, the new Jennifer Walters, or is it Watkins or Walters? I love saying Watkins, but everyone's been saying it's Walters. It's Walters. If you play those two spells, all you have to do is progress them out for 2 mana, okay? Then do your Scion combo for 9 more mana now, because Before, you need the extra colorless at the end to help cast on half, but now you'll have your third creature on board being a Jennifer Walters or Voice of Victory. So now you turn your combo from a 10 mana combo to an 11 mana combo, and you just get the same effect. You know what I'm saying? So at the end of the day, like, I had to question once again, is Dragonlord Dromoka powerful in this deck? Yes, but is it necessary? And is it even the best silence effect for this deck? I'd question it and say no. I think it's stronger in Tiamat, where we don't have to worry about like the whole, what if it gets stuck in a hand? What if you flip it off ad nauseum? What if we create a window for our opponents? Like, nah, just like once that uncountable silence effect's on the stack, it's over in Tiamat. But in this list, we give our opponents a window. So with all that said, once again, if this is a card you want to run, please run it. Don't not run cards because TTC doesn't run them. But for me, those are my reasons why I exclude this in my Scion list. But before I go into the next section, let's check out the chat. Let's see what they talking about. Let's see. I say, I don't get why so many lists use Prismari. It really is secretly a banger. I'm not gonna even lie. It's objectively a banger. Being able, let's just talk about it real quick. Prismari. I objectively cannot say this card is bad. Being able to give any of your instants and sorcery spells Storm, built off what people call the Storm mechanic, it's broken. If you want to support that playstyle, TTC cannot open his mouth and say, hey guys, this is bad. I'm not ever going to say that. But when it comes down to like the fact of like, is it powerful? Yes. But is it necessary? I question no. Not for a turbo consistent mid-range adaptive game plan that's not really looking to non-deterministically storm off. Does that work? Yeah. But in reality, is it needed? Nah. Yeah, let's see. We got another player saying, yeah, I was wondering the same thing. I see it. It is in Tiamat list, but I don't know why. Ooh, Prismari, the inspiration is different from Galzeth Prismari. Those are two different Prismaris. We'll talk about that a little bit later, but this is the one Scion decks are playing, but this one right here, Galzeth Prismari, is what we have in Tiamat. And I want to tell y'all the secret right now. I want to tell y'all because it's such a cool reason to run it, but I'll wait. We have to do Scion first, and then we'll move on to Tiamat. All right, let me speed up, y'all. Let me speed up. All right. We got Sale saying Tiamat. I know the part of the combo is pitch the force and it's castable. Yes, 100%. Oh wait, maybe wrong Prismari. Yep. Oh, I meant Galzeth Prismari. Yeah. Then we are talking about the same one. Yeah. He's talking about the new one though. Yeah, 100%. Yeah. So that's basically the gist of it. When it comes to all this other stuff, Prismari is good. Same way as Korvold. I can talk about these for hours, but ultimately, I'm not doing those texts. So why are we talking about that? Let's talk about what we want to talk about. But before we get in there, I got to give a humongous shout out to some people, which is notably the Patreon, the Thunder Legion Patreon community. None of this will be possible without them. I want to give a humongous shout out to each and every one of you. They get weekly perks of weekly level up gameplay and level up logs, where I share my weekly lessons to help them level up their gameplay. And if you want that experience too, like if you've seen my TC clips on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, or any other platforms, those all come from our level up logs and our level up gameplay. So if you've ever wanted like, hey TTC, I want full context, or hey TTC, why did they make this play? Why did they let you do that? Or why did you let them do that? Check out the Patreon. That's where they get the weekly gameplays and weekly level up logs to help them level up their gameplay. But with that being said, let's get back to the show. Like I said, though, we are talking on Scion. And the last thing I want to talk about before we dive into anything else is I've been listening off a bunch of combos and all this cool stuff, but we got to talk about them. Like TTC, like how do you actually like execute the deck? Like what are you mulliganing for, and what are all these combos? Because I've listed off 0 card combos, 1 card combos. I haven't even brought up yet all the 2 and 3 card combos we also have in the deck, and these are necessary to know, because if you're in the early game, knowing what your, how I call them, your 1 card anchors or your turbo or mid-range 1 card anchors is super crucial. Shout out to the Patreon, the Thunder Legion. I've done a full breakdown video of how to determine what is a 1 card anchor or 2 card anchor in your cEDH and TDH lists. Ultimately, we got to break down first, what is a 1 card anchor? I keep them in my primer, in my list right here. These are examples of 1 card anchors. Let's get down. Yeah. I also call them 1 card combo line enablers. These 1 card anchors is like a singular card that can win you the game or assemble all the winning pieces. Notably, a turbo 1-card anchor is a card like Necropotence or Ad Nauseam. They can be easily cast in the early game, and they can help you progress into winning the game that same turn, if not the next turn. And we all know about these are pretty simple. Another example of a turbo 1-card anchor that a lot of the meta is not actually fully aware of is Gifts Ungiven, where most people have this feeling and this like, oh my gosh, like it's 4 mana, it's worse than intuition. I'd push back and say, in addition to the fact that it's a double entomb effect, which is really great for our list, it just downright is really good. It is a thing where when you're a 5-color and you run things like Tinder Wall, Rite of Flame, Dark Ritual, Cabal Ritual, Mana Vault, I can list them off for days. Rite of Flame, if you're really crazy, you were able to progress an in-step, not Rite of Flame, Rain of Filth. Not much for the casting Gifts Ungiven, but after you cast the Gifts Ungiven, you're able to convert an in-step Gifts Ungiven on turn 1 to 2 into a turn 2 to 3 win, similar to what we do with Ad Nauseam and Necropotence. And on that turn, no matter what they give you, either they will put the worst pile they can give you is a Sevinne's Reclamation and a Brain Freeze to hand, and they put your Breach and LED to graveyard. And usually in that turn 2 to 3 space, especially if you have protection, sometimes they'll of course want to give you the LED to hand because they want you to sack and do the Sevinne's Reclamation so they can blow you out there. But recently there's a lot of times where people are developing their engines and going F6 in that turn 1 2, maybe even turn 3 range. Unlikely, but it's possible. But because of our interaction suite, we're not too much worried about that. We have 13 pieces of stack interaction, but we'll get there in a little bit. After casting Gifts Ungiven on the end step on turn 1 to 2, I then followed up by going like, all right, cool. If you give me Sevinne's and Brain Freeze, which is the worst combination you can give me mana-wise, I'll pay 2 colorless and a white to cast Sevinne's, targeting the Underworld Breach. And then all I need to have, and actually we can go to the primer for this, because we put the little notes there. I love you guys. I want to make sure you guys got the combos. All you need is one other card in hand, one other card in your graveyard, and then what you'll do is you'll exile your Sevinne's Reclamation and Gifts Ungiven to cash, and one other card to cash your LED, and then you'll crack the LED for 3 blue, and as long as you have 3 other cards to discard, which is not really hard to do, or other cards in your graveyard for like fetch lands, maybe a Lotus Petal, maybe you use the Mox Stipend to ramp it out, and total you only need 4 cards across your hand in your graveyard to be able to present that win, whether they put the Sevinne's Reclamation in your hand and the Breach in the graveyard, or you just need a colorless and a red to do your Breach in your hand. So altogether, Gifts Ungiven is now our 3rd turbo 1-card anchor, and just another example of that anchor that as I'm mulliganing my hands, it's a card that once I see it plus mana, I'm like, cool, I can keep this hand. Let me look at the pod. Let me know their player profiles if I already know these players. Where is my seat position? Okay, is this a viable game plan? Is this a viable hand? Cool, I'll take it. All right. Other anchors that you'll see here are a little bit slower, but are still viable because we do have an outlet. Smothering Tithe is a great 1-card anchor that you basically keep it and you just need 10 mana. It's not very hard to ask. And notably, specifically in our version of Scion, because we aren't on Korvold, many times, a lot of times, players will not be as scared of a Smothering Tithe because I'll let them know like, hey, yeah, you can counter this if you want to, but because I don't play Korvold, I don't get the same benefit that other pilots get. And then once they also know that I'm not on Dragonlord Dromoka, they're like, oh, so he doesn't have a silence effect. He can't crack treasures. Yeah, he has a 10 mana combo, but he's going to get 10 mana eventually either way. We're going to let this resolve. Many times this actually happened to me. Granted, TTC is a really strong political player, so get me. The other 1-card anchors, of course, is Rhystic Study and Mystic Remora. These cards by themselves, given time, will win you the game, as well as Hoarding Brute Lord. This is also a 1-card 10 mana win the game. If you hard cast Hoarding Brute Lord, the same as if you were to hard cast Scion, 10 mana win the game for 0 cards. Hoarding Brute Lord lets you go 8 mana hard cast it, and then we convoke cast Saw in Half, and then we're in the same position. Just 1 card, win the game. We get into the Saw in Half, Underworld Breach plus Burnt Offering, follow that up by then recasting the Saw in Half to go get LED and Brain Freeze, and you win the game again. What, TTC? That's broken. I know, that's why I played the deck. It's not fair. That's why we play cEDH. We also notably have some other like 1-card anchors, like you can assemble a Breach line by itself with Gambo with Demonic Tutor, and you can even do some shenanigans with Praetor's Grasp. We'll talk a little bit more about Praetor's Grasp in the future, about why I run this over Mnemonic Betrayal. Not because Mnemonic Betrayal is bad, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. And yeah, these are all my 1 card anchors. Once again, these are cards that by themselves, if I see them in a mulligan and I have cards to support casting them, I will keep those hands. All right. Now, we can't talk about the 1 card anchors and the turbo and the mid-range variants of them without also talking about our 2 card anchors. All right. Now, these 2 card anchors are a little bit different because they're a little rarer to see all together in one hand. But if you see one of them plus a tutor, it's pretty much the same thing. But understand they're a little harder to come by and actually keep those hands because you need those 2 cards or 1 card plus a tutor plus the mana to execute that game plan. So these 2 card anchors, of course, include Thassa's plus Decon or Thassa's plus Tainted. You just went on turn 1 to 3. Super simple, depending on what the hand's looking like. But the other one is Entomb plus all of these reanimation effects. So the one we already know about is Entomb plus Underworld Breach. If you cast your Breach and you progress a Tomb, you can go get your Brain Freeze and LED. You will need some cards in the graveyard to do that, but it is a 2 card anchor, as well as Entomb plus Sevinne's Reclamation. It's the same thing. You Entomb for a Breach, you Sevinne's the Breach back, and then you start storming off recasting Entomb by going to get your LED and going to get your all the other things that come with that. So it's just the simplest things that, like, why don't more decks play Entomb? Because they don't have a Reanimator package to validate it. Their slots get tight, especially at the highest tables. All right. We also do notably run Entomb plus Shallow Grave and Entomb plus Necromancy. These are just to go get Hoarding Brute Lord. We'll talk about the Colossal Grave Reaver combo in just a little bit of time, but notably, these are just to go say at instant speed, I can go get Hoarding Brute Lord, go get a Burnt Offering plus an Ad Nauseam, or if I'm at sorcery speed, I go get a Burnt Offering plus an Underworld Breach, like I've been talking about all night. Or say if I have a lot of resources, I'll use that saw and have to go get an Underworld Breach plus an instant speed enabler like Born Upon the Wind or Valley Flood Caller. Say if I'm sitting on Tide Treasures, I can do this either with Entomb Shallow Grave, Entomb Necromancy, or I can do that also with, if I'm sitting on Scion on board, there's, I believe it's about 12 to 15 treasures or mana you need available to be able to progress that line, including the casting sign. But with Smothering Tide, that's nothing. But these are our 2 card anchors. These are the cards that I'm looking for when I'm mulliganing, that if I see them together or I see them plus one other card, I'll pause and think about, like, hold on, I think I can go somewhere with this. Let's see what I can do with this. All right. Notably, you will see the exclusion of Reanimate. That is because just slots got really tight. And I personally, because of my play style, the ThunderStorm style, where I'm looking to win at instant speed or behind silence protection, I'm usually going to prefer my instant speed reanimation effects over the speed that's provided from Reanimate. If you are looking for a slot to add in Reanimate, though, I would recommend taking out Sevinne's Reclamation. That would invalidate the Gifts Ungiven, but then you can also take out Gifts Ungiven for another Entomb effect if you want to go a different way, because not all Scion lists right now are also not running Intuition or Gifts Ungiven. That means they also don't need Sevinne's Reclamation. Many of them are just running Underworld Breach, Brain Freeze, and they'll have like a wheel effect as like an exile insurance or a way to win in case they lose Brain Freeze. And they also notably will have something like a LED or a Lotus Petal or a Smothering Tide, depending on what type of breach combo they're doing. So yeah, don't feel required to have to run Gifts Ungiven and Sevinne's. I just prefer them because they fit my instant speed play style that I love to do from the hand when I'm playing from my hand, being able to be super explosive out of nowhere. And many times, it's funny, I actually just won a game recently where it was I was seat 3 turn 3, and the seat 1 guy pushed out of silence and really was doing this really sick combo. He was getting into a wheel to potentially win, and great play on him by getting the silence out first before he pushed off his wheel to see what he can get, because he had said I pushed there because I was just feeling in my gut that I wasn't going to get another untap. So yeah, he did force the table to use their interaction and kind of do their thing, but ultimately his decision to push eventually led him to say, like, hold on, I'm sniffing something. I untapped and just did my 0 card combo with Scion. So that's just another example of we play really explosively over trying to play heavy to the board, where our opponents can start to threat assess, like, oh God, TTC has this huge board state versus, oh, TTC has 7 cards in hand. Yeah, it's a lot of cards, but does he have a win in hand or not? How much am I projecting those win cons? All right. Now, before we get into our win cons, let's check the chat out, see how we're doing. We got any questions? Let's see. When you flash photo a Hoarding Brute Lord, When Saw in Half is not available. Whoa. When you flash photography at Hoarding Broodlord when Saw in Half is not available. LOL. Wouldn't Witchclaw also potentially be a 1-card anchor? Ooh, very good question, Jen. So I don't technically count Witchclaw Talisman as a 1-card anchor. If I was on the old Teferi Displacer Kitten, I would count it because you would be using Witchclaw Talisman over and over to get the, to get the Teferi, then bounce it, then go get the Displacer Kitten and all the other things. I don't count Witchclaw Talisman as a 1-card anchor because unlike where Gamble, Demonic Tutor, and Praetor's Grasp is recast using the escape cost of Breach, Witchclaw is used one time to find one of these effects, and it's not being looped. Now, if you are doing something like a Witchclaw plus Chain of Vapor, then it could be argued to be maybe like a 2-card anchor. I could see you there. But ultimately, you're usually using Witchclaw. If you have, like, say, if a bunch of mana and just that 1 card, it's usually to say Witchclaw Talisman, then transition into, cool, let me go get my D-Tutor or my Gamble or my Diabolic Intent or whatever you want to use in order to loop that spell with Underworld Breach. So that's why I don't count it as a 1-card anchor. Very good question, Jen. Very, very good question. All right, let's see. Tell us about your flash photography experience, Jen. That sounds... That sounds amazing. Let's continue though, because we got some more combos to go through. I've already kind of sprinkled and kind of showed you all that I have the gist of these combos in there. Very quickly, just to be fully transparent, this deck is only 6 months in the making. So as you all see, these combos don't go into the full breakdown like my old combos usually do, where I break down all the steps for you all. That's usually once we get to the 8 to 12 month mark, I really lock things in. So as you all see in the next 2 to 3 months, you'll see these combos be fully written out and all the steps and all the variants and all the other good stuff. But just so we're on the same page, that's why you'll only see the prerequisites for the combos. I'm going to verbalize and break things down on how to actually execute those combos right here, right now. But before we do that, we have to get into our beautiful Moxville playtester. Y'all can see my beautiful hands. All right. So I'm going to start off with Scion. We're going to start off with our classic variant of the 0-card Scion combo. All right. So that's just you having the mana to cast Scion the Ur Dragon, and you have nothing else. So I'm just going to show my hand. Boom, right here. Say if you had this hand and we put the entire hand into the library. All right. So it ain't got nothing to us, just Scion. And then if I do right here, let me see if I can see my color pips. Did I do a good job and show off my color pips? No, I didn't. Aw, boo. I didn't. All right. You all can't see the color pips, but it's okay. I'm going to do it old fashioned way. Let me show y'all real quick because I love y'all. I'm going to get my little tokens out. If you're looking for these tokens, notably, humongous shout to Digital Cyclone tokens. If you look these up on Google or scan the little barcode, you can get Digital Cyclone tokens. I really love his tokens. They allow me to like do all the little shenanigans with it. So that's just here for you all. All right, but let's dive into it. What you need for this combo is literally a white, a blue, a black, red, and a green. All right. And then you need 5 colorless. Bang, any colors, doesn't really matter. Boom. There's 5 colorless. All right. So what you do first, like I've been saying, you're going to grab these Wooburg colors and say, oh, boom, cast my Scion. We're hot. We in this bitch. Ooh, we the man. Then you're going to use 2 and then 2 to hold priority after the first one to do a double activation of Scion. This will allow you to do 2 activations of Scion, and then you're going to search your library for a Colossal Grave Reaver and a Hoarding Broodlord. Verse activation will go off. Scion will become a Colossal Grave Reaver and then go into the graveyard. And then you'll have right here our other Hoarding Broodlord. Once it enters the graveyard from the second Scion activation, it does this weird thing where Scion is still technically a Colossal Grave Reaver once it hits the graveyard. So it still would trigger Colossal Grave Reaver before it becomes a Hoarding Broodlord. And so that will bring the Hoarding Broodlord into the field. So now we've used Wooburg. We use Wooburg plus 4 colorless, and we have this last colorless floating. We have a Hoarding Broodlord ETB. We're going to go saw in half. Bada boop boop. We just use this tap plus our last colorless floating. And then we're going to destroy this. Make 2 copies. Boom. There we go. Where's the other one? Boom. All right, we're going to destroy this Hoarding Broodlord with a saw in half. And then we're going to go find Burnt Offering. And we're going to find an Underworld Breach. And I'm going to go find these cards right now because we're about to recast our Saw F either way, but we'll find them right now. We'll find our Brain Freeze and LED and put them to the side. And as I'm doing this, I have to give a humongous shout out to Darrow and Jin Fusion. Not just because they're my vanguards and tech guards for the TC community, but they were actually the first ones to stumble upon this. I believe it was Darrow, but then Jin Fusion added on. They were the first. I didn't find this. This was me talking to them. This is why I love the TC community. This is me talking to the homeboys in the community. We just like, man, I'm trying to like hone this. This was like 4 or 5 months ago. And it was like this, and look at this. And then Darrow was like, hey, bro. Oh, he was talking to, I think he was talking with D-Trove and Jin. And he would like, shout out to all my vanguards. These guys are awesome. My leadership team in the TC community. They was like, hey, man, like if you just add in Burnt Offering, then it just solved the problem. Because before the problem is people used to use LED to do this combo, meaning you discard your hand, meaning you couldn't use the interaction in your hand to do this combo. However, now that we use Burnt Offering, not only does it let you cast Underworld Breach and all the other shenanigans, you also just get the benefit of just saying, I can use the interaction in my hand while also having more mana to, like I said earlier, recast on half and also cast the other cards in my in my hand and my graveyard. But with that being said, you're going to tap Hoarding Brute Lord to sacrifice not the Hoarding Brute Lord token. You're going to sacrifice your Scion, which is a Hoarding Brute Lord. Okay, that will go to the graveyard and you're going to make 8 mana. I just like going simple. I'll do like the beautiful stuff of 3 black, 3 red. Yeah, so I usually just split it down the middle. So I got my little mana, 4 manas, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4. All right, and then I use 1 red plus tap this other Hoarding Brute Lord to cast Underworld Breach. We'll have a breach right over here. All right, once you do that, then you can use 2 black and a red to exile your Scion from the graveyard. We'll also exile, it doesn't really matter, Hoarding Brute Lord, and it will exile Colossal Grave Reaver from the graveyard because you don't need those anymore. And that's what will allow you to cast these Saw in half, targeting one of these tokens. And as you can see, if you already figured out the little trick about this, I notably I can have a graveyard of 0 cards when I execute this combo as well, which is actually kind of bazonkers a little bit. But that's how you find your Brain Freeze. That's how you find your LED. If you already have these cards in the graveyard, you also can find interaction and other protection effects, but no big deal at this point. You cast your LED for free, and then you crack your LED to help cast your Brain Freeze as well as tapping that black. So you'll have 2 more blue floating. You just have the Brain Freeze LED Breach combo, and it's nice and simple, nice and clean. So before I move forward, this is just the standard 0 card combo, okay? It's clean, it's simple. 10 mana, win the game. You need 0 cards in hand and 0 cards in your graveyard. It's kind of disgusting, okay? This is just the standard combo. If we can go quickly back to our original, like right here, our Primer, this is just the original classical variant of the combo. But notably, TTC is not set. I'm not satisfied with just saying 1 0 card combo. I had to find another, and notably I had to find another because originally I was on Windfall, but I got off Windfall because I wanted to add in some more tech. It's not the point, but Windfall was originally the exile insurance to Brain Freeze, where I could use Windfall plus LED or plus Smothering Tide to do the breach combo in case I lost Brain Freeze. However, after deep diving into the list, I learned that Brain Freeze already had a substitute in the list by being Colossal Grave Reaver plus Saw in half. Notably being that if you combine these 2 effects together, you create this type of, how do I describe this? What is the Stitcher Supplier effect, where you're basically looping and digging through your deck and with Underworld Breach plus Burnt Offering, or LED plus, Culling the Weak if you want to, but Burnt Offering is the best one, and this allows you then to just churn through your library and still win with your Praetor's Grasp or with your Thassa's Oracle. Okay, let's break it down. This, like I said, your combo that we're looking to assemble is the Underworld Breach plus Saw in half plus Colossal Grave Reaver plus Burnt Offering combo. This allows you to create a Stitcher Supplier type effect using only the cards in your 99, not needing Grinding Station, not needing Stitcher Supplier, not needing any of those effects, all from the command zone, 0 cards in hand. But this time we will need 3 cards starting off in our graveyard. All right. So we do this. Let's start off then and go back to our Moxville playtester. This time we're going to, once again, same thing. You only need a what? A black, say it with me, a white, a blue, a green, and a red. And then you will need, same as always, 5 colorless. There's your 5th colorless. All right. So this is all you need to do it. But we have to acknowledge the fact also notably that we need 3 cards in our graveyard already. So if we go into our library, let's just grab 3 random lands. So we'll grab an Arid Mesa, a Misty Rainforest, and a Verdant Catacombs. Let's say you were fetching it up while you were doing this combo. All right. Those 3 lands in the graveyard. It's turn 3. You got 10 mana from a Tithe or from a Lothar or whatever not. But at some point, someone hit you with a Ragavan, and they was like, oh, your Brain Freeze is gone. Can't win with Breach anymore. Sucks to suck, bro. And I'm like, dang, you got me, bro. Untap for turn 3. Let's execute our combo once again. First, I'm going to start off by casting Sign of the Ur Dragon by using what? Our beautiful Wooburg mana. All right. So we take that Wooburg mana, we cast Scion. Same thing as always. We're going to do that double Scion activation for boop boop. For colorless, we're going to go first get our Colossal Grave Reaver. All right. Put that into the graveyard and then follow that up with putting Hoarding Brute to the graveyard, trigger the Colossal Grave Reaver version of Scion while it's still a Colossal Grave Reaver, putting Hoarding Brute onto the battlefield. Then follow that up, go finding Sawn Half. Then we use this last colorless mana plus Convoke, casting these 2 creatures to cast Sawn Half. All of it still the same, super simple. Then we follow this up. We're going to destroy the Hoarding Brute and then follow that up by making 2 token copies of Hoarding Brute Boop, boop. Now, with that being said, we're going to follow that up by doing the same thing as usual. Find an Underworld Breach and find a Burnt Offering. Nothing's changed yet. Just needed that Wooburg mana plus 5 colorless, and you needed 3 cards in the graveyard. Super simple. All right. Then we're going to do the same as always. That Sawn Half goes to graveyard. Because Brain Freeze is no longer available to us, what we're going to do is we're going to tap the Hoarding Brute casting the Burnt Offering. Once again, sacking Scion is an additional cost to make our 8 mana. And we're going to do the same as before, where we're going to make 1, 2. There's a black. There's another red. There's another red. Make 4 red, and you make 4 black. All right, there you go. Boom. Now you're going to use 1 red and this other Hoarding Brute to Convoke cast your Underworld Breach. All right. Now the Breach is on the battlefield. You're going to diverge from the line slightly. You're going to start off first by using 2 red and a black, and you're going to recast that beautiful Sawn Half still. You can pitch Scion as before. You can even pitch Hoarding Brute but we can't pitch Colossal Grave Reaver. So this time we're going to pitch one of those lands we had in the graveyard, okay? And you're going to make 2 copies of Hoarding Brute again. Boop, boop. And Sawn Half goes back to the graveyard, all right? Now, with that ETB, you're going to either find one of 2 things. You're either going to find a Shallow Grave card that we were already playing, or a Necromancy. Either one of these effects work. Shallow Grave, of course, is a simpler variant because you can just Convoke cast it both. Necromancy, if you get that, you're going to want to get some type of net positive ritual, like a Dark Ritual or like a Lotus Petal, something to help cast it because you only have 2 creatures at this point, and you're going to need all of the rest of your mana to do what we're trying to do. All right. But notably, we'll just get Shallow Grave and just keep it simple. Okay. So we go tap, we go Shallow Grave, and then we're going to go boop, boop, boop. Do a Shallow Grave, and that will bring our Colossal Grave Reaver to the battlefield. When that enters the battlefield, it will have an ETB to mill 3 cards. So we're going to mill 3 cards going, that's a Gemstones, that's a Smothering Tithe, and it's Ad Nauseam. Who cares? All right. Then what you need to do is you need to cast your Sawn Half again. All right. So because what we're trying to do is set up the Sawn Half plus Colossal Grave Reaver plus Burnt Offering plus Underworld Breach. We have all the pieces, but we can't cast a Burnt Offering yet, because if we sack the original Colossal Grave Reaver, it kind of mucks things up, versus it doesn't muck things up. It just makes things more difficult, versus if we were just to make 2 copies of it first, fill up our graveyard a little bit more before we use the Burnt Offering of one of the tokens. So what I like to do is I'll go in that graveyard and I'm going to use, ooh, I did not mean to exile that entire graveyard. It's okay, fellas. It's okay. It's okay. I'll get rid of that land we were talking about before and that land. And I'll also get rid of, by this point, you don't really need Shallow Grave anymore. All right. And you're going to use 2 black and a red. And this will cast your Saw in Half. That will destroy Colossal Grave Reaver. Make your 2 copies. Boom. Boom. Saw in Half goes back to graveyard. And both of these will ETB, now milling 6 more cards. So you're going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Notably, I think did I skip any creatures? I think, okay, so Tinderwall comes back. There are creature ETBs from this. So we have to remember, I didn't hit any other creatures, right? No, I didn't. Okay, good. Tinderwall, there will be a trigger to bring Tinderwall back. So we bring back Tinderwall. Cool, we have 2 extra red mana. I'll crack it. You have 2 extra red mana. There you go, boop. We need more cards in our graveyard, all right? Now, the final thing that we're going to do is notably, we're now going to use that last black mana we've been holding on to, and you're going to recast your Burnt Offering, and you're going to exile 3 cards from your graveyard. So we can get rid of that Tinderwall, that Underground Sea, and we'll say a Force Negation or a Summoner's Pact. That's fine. That will cast Burnt Offering, and we're going to sacrifice one of these Colossal Grave Reavers. This time, we're actually going to make 8 black. Once we make these 8 black, make this 8 black mana. Now we have both assembled the Colossal Grave Reaver plus Saw in Half plus Underworld Breach plus Burnt Offering line. We're now in the event that we lose Burnt Brain Freeze, whether it was from pitching from a Force of Will, being hit by a Ragavan, being hit by a Praetor's Grasp, Mnemonic Betrayal at instant speed, and we try to combo on top, but our Brain Freeze is already gone. Like, there is so many options that can happen. Deathrite Shaman hits it. Like, so many things can happen where our Brain Freeze can be taken away. Usually I'll recommend people run Windfall, but if you're on this Scion list here, then you don't even need Windfall. You can run it if you want to, or Wheel of Fortune, but this is all within your own 99. You just able to keep going from this, where you'll use this to cast the Saw in Half, use this to cast the Saw in Half, and then recast the Burnt Offering. And then you're going to be netting a black or red mana as you churn through this library. Then you can use the black and red mana to either cast a Metamorphose to cast a Thassa's Oracle, or use the black mana to cast a Praetor's Grasp to steal one of your opponent's finishers, like Fairy Mastermind or a Wheel or whatever not, so you can kill them once you mill them out. Well, actually, I take that back. You can't Brain Freeze them out unless you steal their Brain Freeze, hit them with a Brain Freeze, recast the Praetor's Grasp, and then hit them like a Fairy Mastermind or a Wheel or something. So that is how you do this other 0-card combo. That is the gist of it. I'm about to check the chat for any questions, but this is actually a really new combo. It was found in the last 2 weeks, so you probably won't see this in any other Scion decks right now, but any Scion deck that is running these 4 cards and or LED plus culling the week, you can still do this same thing here. So really, really, really cool stuff here, man. Like, I'm gonna be honest, when I found this, I was kind of stroking my own little ego. I was like, what the fuck? Because I was looking up all online, like, how can I make each of my cards have value outside of their combo utility? And for the longest time, Colossal Grave Reaver was a dead card outside of the 0-card Scion combo. But then being able to say, like, oh shit, this is basically just a Stitcher Supplier with Saw in Half, or a Grinding Station, which was my original inspiration, the reason I was looking for it. I wanted to find a slot for Grinding Station. Looking for a slot for Grinding Station eventually led me, though, to finding, boop, this spell. So yeah, let's check real quick. Is there ever a scenario where you can sack a Hoarding Brute token instead of Scion? Maybe if you already have it, if you have a D-SWAT or a Guardianship. I personally, we'll get to the interaction slide in a little bit. I personally run Redirect Lightning and Misdirection over Deflecting SWAT and Fierce Guardianship, because I don't play Scion out unless it's a need. And we'll actually get into those reasons to or to not cast and Scion in a little bit. But ultimately, the biggest thing that I keep in mind when I'm doing this is that because I don't cast my Scion very often, I don't run those cards. But if you do want to run those cards, that works as well. You'll just have to have that extra card in your graveyard if you want to do that way. Because I believe we would still have a extra card available, but I usually just pitch the Scion because it's really simple. But yeah, if you have an extra card in your graveyard, you don't have to get rid of the Scion. Let's see. I get that you do it so you use one less card for the breach and get the Scion back with the command zone, but if you get blown out by a well-timed counterspell, wouldn't it have been better to leave Scion on board? First of all, very good question. Because the only 2 cards we run in our deck are Hoarding Brute Lord and Colossal Grave Reaver, once we're blown out, because we don't run Endurance, our only recursion would be a Noxious Revival. That'd be it. If we get blown out, then it is kind of like a thing like, it's okay, they blew us out, we're going to go for one of our other combos, whether it be Naus, Necro, D-Tutor, or whatever, not blah, 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 blah. But the biggest thing to remember about this is you don't ever have to go for your combo, okay? Because we're using Burnt Offering to execute this line, we have all the interaction in our hands. So the Misdirection, Disrupting Show, Path Negation, Redirect Lightning, Silence, all of these things are still available to us as we're executing this combo, unlike where most Scion pilots are going to use LED to execute the combo. But very, very good question. Notably though, I will throw this out. Like I said earlier though, if you do want to run Deflecting SWAT or Fierce Guardianship, then what you're talking about is actually a strong pattern to go towards. However, I would recommend the Redirect Lightning and Misdirection over those cards because our commander is tough to cast in the early game, and that means we'll end up having to hard cast a Fierce or hard cast a SWAT most times, where Misdirection is free and Redirect Lightning is usually only 1 mana. So yeah, let's see. You also can reanimate your Dragon package with Noxious Revival. Yep, there you go. Multiple Scion activations, Sign to Colossal Grave Reaver, second Scion activation, hold priority cast Noxious. Second activation, resolve doing another Colossal Grave Reaver, then you go through the rest, then go through the rest of dragons. Cool. Is this Jen? I see Jen is commenting this. Is this for your list, or is this something you see in context to what my list is doing? Talk to me, brother. Okay. I'll give you some time to type that in. But with that being said, we're going to move on to the next combo. And these other ones, though these other ones we're not going to need to use our beautiful Moxfield playtester. These other ones are going to be super simple to go through just verbally. We've already talked about, like I said, are the Gifts Ungiven 1-card combo lines. Okay. No, we're entering the 1-card combo line territory. Gifts Ungiven does 2 things. As a 1-card combo, it symbols our Breach package as well as our Thassa's Oracle package. If we're trying to do Gifts Ungiven into Breach, like I said, it's Underworld Breach, LED, Savine's Reclamation, and Lion's Eye Diamond. You can use a Lotus Petal instead if you want to, if your LED's gone, but it'll be a little bit extra cards in your graveyard that's going to be needed. We also have a Thassa's Oracle line where you use Gifts Ungiven into Underworld Breach, Savine's Reclamation, Thassa's Oracle, and Demonic Consultation or Tainted Pact. You'll need 3 colors in the blue to push off the gifts, and then you'll need about X mana and X cards in your graveyards to execute that combo. I've never needed to do this, but it is another option we have with Gifts Ungiven. All right. Also, Demonic Tutor and Gamble, like I brought up earlier, are 1-card anchors and 1-card multi-tutors and 1-card combo lines for this list, where if you cast D-Tutor, go get Breach, recast D-Tutor for LED, cast the LED, and then use that mana plus a recast of Demonic Tutor to go get your Brain Freeze. So once again, really, really cool combo. And we can do the same thing with Gamble. Notably, the first cast of Gamble is a gamble. No pun intended. But the biggest thing to remember is once you get that Breach to hand, you can recast the Gamble to go get your LED and your Brain Freeze to execute those combos as well. All right. When we move to our 2-card combos, all right, we do have, like I brought up earlier, the Entomb plus Reanimation effect being Entomb and Gifts Ungiven for our Entomb effects, and Shallow Grave and Necromancy for our Reanimation effects. Notably, this combo can either go for, this will go into our Hoarding Brute Lord combo that we've been talking about this whole time. I've referenced this combo multiple times, but you literally either go get your Brute Lord to go into a Breach line, or you use, if you're doing this at instant speed, you can go get your Burnt Offering plus an Ad Nauseam. Notably, that's a big reason why we run Ad Nauseam over a lot of other cards in that slot, because if we have Burnt Offering plus Ad Nauseam, you'll have 2 red and 2 black left over, meaning you will be able to push off an instant speed Ad Nauseam line if you want to, whether it's getting Manamorphose into a Valley Flood Caller or a Born Upon the Wind, or just going Final Fortune after you filled up your grip if you did it on an instep. So that's just that is a synergy you get with the Reanimation package. And notably, all these cards that are used to set up your Reanimation line, like I brought up earlier, they support both Thassa's Oracle lines and breach lines. So the reanimation package just woves really well with this 5-color good stuff package that we're already doing. We also do have, notably, like I brought up earlier, the classic variants of Entomb plus Breach or Entomb plus Sevine's Reclamation to put together your Underworld Breach plus Lion's Eye Diamond plus Brain Freeze combo. But we also do have our Colossal Grave Reaver variants of the same combo. We are able to use Entomb plus Underworld Breach or Entomb plus Sevine's Reclamation to go get your Colossal Grave Reaver, Saw and a Half Burnt Offering, your Shallow Grave and Necromancy, and you'll put together the same Burnt Offering plus Saw and a Half plus Colossal Grave Reaver plus Underworld Breach in order to put that combo together. But notably, it will be a lot more mana and a lot more cards. But like I said, we're talking about 2 cards to help you win the game instantaneously, not thinking about the mana requirements. We're just saying, if I can find these 2 cards and I have any amount of mana, or if I have enough mana, I can just execute the game win. I will have the exact numbers and the full combo breakdown in the coming months, but just be patient with TTC. All right. It is notable to bring up, there was a combo line that I was running with Smothering Tithe plus a wheel effect that basically gives you enough mana to be able to execute the Scion line pretty easily. Like if you can get out of turn 1 to 2 Tithe, then you can get out of turn 2 to 3 wheel. I personally got off wheel. I was on Windfall to increase my blue card count, but also have that more explosivity card advantage because we don't have a huge amount of card or no card advantages in our command zone other than moving into an ad nauseum. But I decided to get off Windfall once I realized that Colossal Grave Reaver could be used for a combo. But if you run Windfall or Wheel of Fortune, these things work as well. Just literally cast your wheel with the Smothering Tithe on attack on the board, and just be aware your opponents will get refilled, so you may want to do this under a silence effect, but it will just mean you win the game as long as you do not draw your Colossal Grave Reaver or Hoarding Brute when you do this effect. With that being said, some pilots I've recommended explore using Time Twister, so it's guaranteed no matter what you get in your hand, you can win. But with that amount of treasures, you probably could find some shenanigans to be able to convert. Even if you draw your Hoarding Brute Lord, you hard cast Hoarding Brute Lord with the Saw and a Half and all the other things and all the other just the things, you know. Ooh, and last point, if you cast your Windfall and or your Wheel of Fortune while your Colossal Grave Reaver or Hoarding Brute Lord is in hand, you're forcing yourself to need to draw into a reanimation effect in order to do the combos, because they'll be locked in your graveyard unless you hit a Noxious Revival, a Shallow Grave, a Necromancy, or a, what's the other thing called? An Endurance if you run Endurance. I'm not currently on Endurance, but that's a great card to run as well. But last but not least is a 3-card combos. These include and are not limited to the what if the Hoarding Brute Lord is in my hand, because it's an 8 mana drop. This includes, actually shout out to Jin Fusion. I knew about this combo, but seeing him execute it made me actually say I need to put this in my primer. If you have Hoarding Brute Lord in hand and you have your LED on board, and you have either your Shallow Grave or Necromancy in hand, you can flash in, you can cast your Shallow Grave or Necromancy, hold priority, and crack your Lion's Eye Diamond while your Brute Lord is still in your hand. It'll put in your you'll put in your graveyard, and then you'll be able to follow that up by going, all right, Shallow Grave, bring back the top creature, which is Hoarding Brute Lord, or Necromancy, ETB, target my Hoarding Brute Lord. And it's just a really cool thing you can do, that because they don't target the Hoarding Brute Lord on the stack, it lets you kind of be a little shenanigan based with your LED. And with that being said, you can go into a breach line, you can go into ad nauseum. It just gives you all the shenanigans to do, but it's fun stuff. The other honorable mention before we get into our next section, the other 3-card combo that I usually do post ad nauseum or Necropotence pretty consistently, or if I'm sitting on my Rhystic Study or Mystic Remora, is I will do the Entomb effect plus Reanimation effect plus a Demonic Consultation or Tainted Pact. This allows you to go from those 3 cards into winning with Thassa's Oracle at instant speed. It is really, really slick because it's only black mana, and the only bad thing that can quote unquote happen is while you're drawing cards, you draw your Thassa's, and it can be a little inconvenienced. But if you move into, like if you're doing a Necropotence line, you can go to your cleanup, use the Necropotence exile triggers to bring it back and do it like that. But for a standard, using Entomb plus Shallow Grave or Necromancy plus Tainted Pact plus Demonic Consultation, that is anywhere from 4 mana to 3, 4, 5, 6, 4 to 6 mana when at instant speed with Thassa's Oracle. Yes, it's 3 cards, but hey, bro, Rhystic Study, Mystic Remora, Necropotence, ad nauseum, 3-card combos ain't that crazy, but it's just another option. Before I move into our next section, let's check the chat out. Let's see. We got think everyone in our TTC community is on Noxious, so it's applicable to everyone. Less optimal the less dragons you have, but if you were in a position where you're blacking black or finish the combo line, using Noxious Revival as an additional sign activation can get an extra convoke ability. Oh, a convocable body on the table for your line is helpful niche option, but shows the flexibility of your list, bro. True. That's a good point. That's actually a really good point. He's basically saying we can use our Noxious Revival to bring back a dragon with the sign activation on the stack to put it back into the graveyard. Oh, that's actually pretty cool. So it'd be like a Colossal Grave Reaver into a Hoarding Brute Lord, and if we still have more activations on the stack, then it can be Noxious Revival, put a Colossal Grave Reaver back onto the graveyard, and then we do another and then it will be like, I'm thinking like 3 to 4 activations. Mana intensive, but it's cool utility if you are doing a larger dragon package. Maybe not much for me, but for my only 2 dragon package, but I definitely could see this if you are doing all like multi-dragon shenanigans and you're doing heavy sign strategy. So really, really cool stuff there. All right, let's see. Now, we're about to talk about the do's and don'ts of casting Scion, because I've just got done talking about how cracked this commander is, but you got to know when to cast it. When do you cast Scion / when do you go for the Scion combos? All right. Biggest thing is, for me, I wait for my internal signal. All right. I will cast Scion if I need resources. Like if I'm say if I'm going against Kennen or another Ragashai slop deck or like Blue Farm, I'm saying I'm casting Scion. You know what I'm saying? And the biggest thing that I tell people politically is Scion is not just 10 mana win the game. It is also 10 mana get any 2 cards from my deck. So if you can stop this player who's getting ready to win another turn, please counter the Scion and then stop them. I'm okay with that. But you have to take responsibility to stop them. This is my attempt to have interaction ready for the table. On the flip side, I said I can actually be an advocate where I'm far behind. Say if I'm far behind the game, I get 2 tutors if I use Saw and Half. So I get to use 1 tutor for myself, and I get to use the other tutor can be to help the table. I actually had a game where we stopped 1 player in our level up crew, in the shout out to the TC community, and 1 tutor was used for a silence, and what was it? I think it was like a counter spell, but I'm pretty sure it was a silence. And the other tutor was used for a Ristic study, and I made them a deal, hey, let me progress the Ristic study on my turn, let me get an instep and then pass. Because I just want, like, I only had 2 cards left in hand, but I said, you all can push after that, but at least I have an out to maybe draw something to be able to interact and or be able to find an instant speed win. But with 2 cards, Ristic study has to be the thing I get on my side. And it was like, that's fair. We're about to 100% lose the game. You're about to save us. I'm like, cool. We cool. We all cool. We cool. And so it was a really easy thing like that. So whether it's needing resources, whether it's needing interaction, those are amazing reasons to cast your Scion. If you just need combo access and say you have nothing else, say if you drew a bunch of mana or you're sitting on a bunch of mana and you have nothing but interaction in hand, in most decks, you will be in the position to be like, oh, I don't know what to do now. Like, what do I do now? Like, they just pass turns and like, I have nothing else to get going. But notably for us, as long as we have Colossal Grave Reaver and Hoarding Brute Lord in our 99 in our library, we could just cast our commander and push if it's the appropriate window. And that comes from that patience I talk about a lot in my one-on-one level up sessions when I'm with people. All right. And the last reason I would do a Scion of the Earth Dragon combo is that there's nothing more mana efficient or guaranteed available. Like, for example, say if I have, it's my turn, I see it's a clean window, and I'm just sitting there like, all right, I can either do a ad nauseum, right? I can either do like, this happened in my game recently. I could do a Wishclaw Talisman into a Necro Potent or ad nauseum, or I could just do a Scion combo. One is non-deterministic, can literally whiff, and my opponent has a Ristic study, or I just do my Scion combo and clean things up really simply, in a simple way. That's where I would just choose the deterministic combo and just do Scion and clean up the game. You know what I'm saying? However, say if I had a Demonic Tutor and an Underworld Breach in my hand, why would I do the Scion combo? Like, why would I use 10 mana to win the game when really at that point I may only need like 4 to 6 mana and it's less colors needed? I can hold up more interaction and I'm in a better position at that point. You know what I'm saying? I can get the Breach and the Demonic Tutor online and get those out of hand before without turning on stuff like Mindbird Trap and all that other stuff. So it's very like, I call it just waiting for the signal or the sign, but it's more of a feel thing, and you'll feel it better over time as you play this specific list. But the biggest thing I'll say is, please don't just run towards the Scion combo, because the biggest reason that people are not running the Colossal Grave Reaver or Hoarding Broodlord combo is because everyone sees it coming. Everyone knows it's there. However, in the thick of it, as people are pushing, as things are happening, it's really easy to play to your hand, have a bunch of rituals in hand, and have Wooburg available from like a Lotho or maybe a Ragavan or maybe a Tithe or something. You got like 2-3 treasures on the side, you got some lands, and it doesn't look like you have 10 mana, but you go to your turn with a little bit extra protection. Say you got a Silence with Pact and Force of Will backup. You go like, cool, I'm gonna fight for this Silence, and then I'm gonna push off my Scion combo. That's only 11 mana. Or say I push out a Voice of Victory. Same thing like I said earlier. It's just 11 mana because of the Convoke. So these are just examples where it's great to cast Scion, but I got to just harp a little bit on when not to cast Scion. Notably, if there's, like I said, if there's a stronger, easier combo line available, don't worry about the 0-card Scion combo. It's there because it's broken, not because it's required. All right. Don't tunnel vision on it, because then you'll become more predictable from to your opponents. Next is, if you don't need additional advantage, don't just cast it and pass. Literally, just if you're in the strongest position in the game and you already have an instant speed winning hand, like say you got Mad Treasure, you got all this other stuff, you sitting there like, hey man, I got a Thoughts in my graveyard, I got a Necromancy in hand, I got a Demonic Constellation, I got 4 mana to win the game, but I got 6 mana plus a Flusterstorm and a Redirect Lightning and a Pact. Oh shit, I could just wait for the perfect window to push at instant speed. There's no reason to cast Scion to hedge your bets. Not only would you cuck yourself on mana in that example, even if you did have the extra mana to cast it, you're just making more eyes be on you, versus play with that ThunderStorm style, which is more to your hand, and you can have more political leverage because people don't know what you have going on in your hand, versus if you play this scary ass Scion and you pass it. You know what I'm saying? I can't tell you the number of times where I was literally sitting there like, dude, like, I don't know what to do. There was like, just cast Scion. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yeah, but I don't really want to become the threat. And like, I have a Fish on board, or I have a Lotho and an Esper on board. I don't think I need Scion right now. And I just feel like everyone's just going to say I'm trying to win the game. It's like, there's no reason to cast it. So it could be a strong move, but I think it's a little too strong and you're already positioned to win. And I don't want people to try to force a draw because they think I can win from on board status, versus having something in hand, we're all fighting over someone else's win, and once all the interaction goes low, then I come in with my, for that example, Necromancy plus Demonic Consultation with my Thassa's already in the graveyard. So and that hits on my last point. You don't want to become the threat. It's just really easy to become a threat in this deck because 10 mana win the game is broken, objectively speaking. There's not another deck, whether it be Tiamat, Sisay, Magda, there's not an Arkham Daxon, there's not another tutor in the command zone deck that can win with such a smaller amount of resources. There's not another deck that can do this, and because of that, you will stick out like a sore thumb. So you need to really work on having your prowess, which is your in-game IQ, having your patience, which is your ability to evaluate and find a window, and your politics, your ability to influence your opponent's decisions and game actions with your words. Have those as high as possible so you can navigate the fact that your commander is such a broken effect. Even if it's just learning the statement, hey, Scion isn't just win 10 mana win the game, it's 10 mana get any 2 cards. And that's a great thing to keep in mind when you're doing all the shenanigans of everything that goes on in cEDH, like double wristics and all the other shenanigans and blah, 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 blah. You know what I'm saying? So keep these things in mind, really big. Next thing is, I've already pretty much said this passively, but what is the ThunderStorm style philosophy? It is, you are playing from your hand. You're gonna go light on table development, but in the event that you're going engine for engine with the opponent, you are gonna be more aggressive with developing your board. Like for example, I had a game where I went turn 1 ramp, turn 2 Ristic, No, it was like a turn. Oh, what was it? Oh yeah, turn 1 ramp, turn 2 Rhystic Study, turn 3 Tithe, turn 4 Lotho into a Scion. That's super scary. But there was a Kennen on board with a Nezahal, Seaborn Muse, and just a lot of other crazy stuff. And so at that point, I'm like, I have to be aggressive, because if I let them get too much advantage, they're gonna drown me. You know what I'm saying? So in that place, that's where the ThunderStorm style can fall behind, because we keep such a loud board state. So you have to know when to press the advantage when another opponent or multiple opponents are so far ahead. Biggest thing, like I also said, wait for the signal. We're a big patience style. You want to wait for the opportunity to win at instant speed or behind silence protection. But at other times, you will need to know when to pull the trigger and just go for your win, even if it's not protected as much as you may like. And last, for this deck specifically, like I've been saying, you want to use your Scion when it creates needed leverage and closes out the game. All right, don't ever feel like you have to, because no one can ever make you take a game action, whether it be your personal conviction or another person politics. Okay, next so that's how I play the deck. That's the deck philosophy. This is a whole new deck, so I haven't even gotten to all the cards and everything yet, but just understand that when it comes to Scion, this is what we're doing. This is the gist of it and all the other cool stuff. I'm gonna spend a quick second checking the chat, see how everything's going with there, see if there's any statements or questions, and then we're gonna run into this, hitting through these last categories, and then we can eventually get into Tiamat. Let's see. We got Small saying, are there any options other than a counterspell in the deck if someone flashes in the opposition agent or Aven Mind Sensor with Scion activations on the stack? Very, very good. Okay, so yes, if both Scion activations are on the stack, that means Scion is still a Scion. Okay, meaning you can still, if you like, this is the crazy way, you know, say you've been sitting on a Smothering Tithe, you got like 25 treasures, you put double Scion activations on the stack, they follow that up with going, okay, with the 2 Scion activations on the stack, they go opposition agent or Aven Mind Sensor. What you do is you just put 2 more activations on the stack and win on top of that. Simple. Now, you play against a skilled player, they're going to wait for the first activation to go off. They're really probably most likely going to wait for the the Hoarding Brute-Lord ETB to get on the stack so they can steal a card, not just a dragon from your deck. They're going to hit you with that opposition agent or that. And because Hoarding Brute-Lord is not a May trigger, if you can see right here, it says enter, search your library for a card. There is no you may. What I would recommend doing is we do have a pretty hefty interaction suite that I'll be touching on just in a little bit. So of course we have counter spells. We also have removal in things like Chain of Vapor, Odawara. What is the other ones? Chain of Vapor, Odawara. We'll get to interaction in a second, but we do have spot removal as an option. And also in addition to counter spells and removal, there was one more thing. If it's an Aven Mind Sensor, that's not the end of the world. This just means your combo right then gets stopped. If it's an opposition agent, then it can be kind of hefty, especially if they hit you after you do like a saw and a half. Hitting the double activations is kind of fucking crazy. At that point, then you want to politic with the table. Say, hey guys, we are playing a competitive format. Every deck in the format, 90%, 85% of decks can win if they have 2 cards. I'm okay of getting 2 lands if you all can remove this opposition agent, and I will get 2 lands and put them into exile with Hoarding Brute-Lord, and I'm done pushing, period. And they say, yeah, sure, I got a Force of Will, or hey, I got a Abrupt Decay, or hey, I got a Flood Maw, or whatever not. That is where you can, remembering the mindset of when you're playing your deck, you don't have 7 cards in your hand. You really have 28 cards because it's your cards plus your opponent's cards. And that grows and shrinks as the table's resources shrinks. So if you can give the table fair deals that make sense to them and give them a benefit, i.e. not losing to an opposition agent, stealing 2 cards from your deck in a good stuff list, then you have less of a problem coming up as in those situations where you get opposition agent or Aven Mind Sensors. But that's how you do it with prowess. That's how you do it with patience. And that's how you do it with politics. Also, we have Small going, how often do you see tutor hate pieces? Me personally, not very often. The metas I play in are Flowers that Play to Win. They're very much big on, we're playing to win, dude. I did have recently a player say after I won with the Scion 0-card combo, like, dang, I should have got an opposition agent instead of a Ristic Study, because they were tingly. They had that tingly feeling like I was about to win, but you couldn't see it on my board. It was like because I had a bunch of rituals in hand. But outside of that, I'm not really seeing a bunch in any of the metas I play, whether it be in my local LGS, in the TC community, or any of the other Discord communities I play in. Nah, it's not a lot of tutor hate. And even in those positions in tutor hates, like I'm gonna go back to politics. If you can communicate something to your opponents, less as in, hey dude, this isn't fair, just help me out, man. Like, no one gives a fuck about helping you out. Like, it's not like facts over feelings. Like, dude, we're playing a competitive format. You're getting blown out. But if you break down to a pair like, dude, this guy's really good. He obviously waited for my Saw and a half to resolve, and I have 2 ETBs in the stack, okay? Meaning that he's going to get 2 cards out of my deck. He can grab a Thassa's Tainted, Thassa's Decon, Breach, a Breach, and a demonic tutor. He can grab whatever he wants, and he can just win the game right here, right there, unless he's willing to make a deal where he steals out of my deck and make sure it's not something that either immediately wins or eventually wins, like a Ristic Smothering Tide. That's the same as eventually win the game. Then if someone can stop this, I can promise to go get 2 lands. I'll go get a Gemstone Caverns and a fucking fetch land, and they will go in exile. I'll play the fetch land as my land this turn, and I'll pass. Game action deal as well. That allows you not to lose the game, and you just be patient, because our card quality is so high. You will eventually draw into another win con or whatever, not to be able to have another opportunity to push. Because like I said, Scion is not the first plan. It's like plan C or D. You know what I'm saying? It's just the fact that we have a 5-color good stuff list that just goes 10 mana win the game. So super, super simple there. Really awesome questions, Smo. Awesome questions, dude. All right. Now, with that being said, we've talked about so much, so much. But as you can see here, if you all have seen the list, I am big on tagging my cards. And as you can see here, I tag the living bejesus out of my cards. And I go section by section, making sure that me or anyone viewing my list can get a full understanding of how each card layers perfectly with everything we already are doing or going about in our deck. So with that being said, let's hit these tags really quick. We're going to hit everything from our win cons all the way to our land base and to our removal interactions. So if you love my smooth, deep voice, just sit back and enjoy the vibes. All right. So starting off with our 0 column, I already start off with 0. This is like my synergy package. First, I always show off my 0-card command zone combo. It's right there. I have nothing to hide. This deck tech is going to be released on YouTube and Patreon. So Patreon first, of course, shout out to the Thunder Legion. But yeah, like I have nothing to hide, dog. Like, yes, 0 mana win the game. It's there. Next is our synergy package, which is really a reanimator package. And really all these cards, because the only synergy are like high synergy cards are Burnt Offering, Colossal Grave Reaver, Hoarding Brute Lord, and Saw and Half. Outside of those 4 cards, Entomb, Gifts and Given, Necromancy, and Shallow Grave all can just be regularly used in our decks, whether it be Breach lines, Thassa's lines, or just doing instant speed. Hey, my opponent cracked the Ranger Captain. I'm going to flash in a Necromancy, bring back the Ranger Captain VOs, and then I'm going to crack the Ranger on top of theirs so I can win on top of the stack when their wins on top of the stack. So that's just an option we have. Same with Shallow Grave. Oh, someone killed my OBM. I'm going to cast a Shallow Grave, bring my OBM back, and kill their OBM so I can at least have that. And yes, it does notably exile at I think it's the end of turn, at the next end of turn. But usually if you're in the middle of a stack fight, if it's during that last turn in a tournament scene, then you usually don't really care about that. But these are just the 4 cards that aren't technically synergy, but they are more of like a reanimator package. And then, like I brought up already, these 4 cards are all combo pieces. They're interaction in some pieces. They're tutors. They're mill engines. Like Colossal Grave Reaver plus a Brain Freeze is stupid. If you've never done it, please try it. Just put your Colossal Grave Reaver on board and then hold up a Brain Freeze. Let that stack get big enough. You hit like a Esper, Hexing Squelcher, Tinderwall, and a Thassa's and just have fun. It's really fun. Ooh, and I didn't bring this up before. With your double sign activations on stack, I've actually had games where I've done the first sign activation, double sign activation. I've allowed the first to resolve, and with the trigger for the Hoarding Brute Lord to, or with the activation, the second activation to grab Hoarding Brute Lord in the stack, I'll cast an Entomb for an instant speed win, and I'll throw a Hexing Squelcher into the graveyard to reanimate it while Scion is still a Colossal Grave Reaver, because notably it says whenever one or more creature cards are put into your graveyard. So that can be from its own ability or from an effect like Entomb or Gifts Ungiven. So you can do shenanigans like that, but we'll talk more and get Hexing Squelcher and all the other shenanigans in a second. With that being said, we got our Breach package, 15 cards that support or win with us Breach in some type of shenanigan based way, but that's it. Moving on to win cons. We don't really need to touch on this, but notably I count 24 cards that are part of win cons in some type of way. So we're talking nearly about 25% of this deck is helping us win. But as you can see, all of these cards are just generically strong cards. None of the thing is like fully a dead card. Everything helps us win. Everything has some other value and allows us to keep pushing no matter what. Next, we have our 1-card combo line enablers that we talked about earlier, as well as our 2-card combo line enablers that we already talked about. Next is, and very important category, our finishers, both immediate and non-immediate / delayed. All right, so as we all already know, Thassa's Oracle, when you enter the battlefield, basically wins the game if your devotion is larger than your library, larger or equal to your library size. Easy finisher. Our other finisher, or our exile insurance, or as I call my external exile insurance, is Praetor's Grasp. Notably, if Thassa's Oracle is gone for whatever reason, say if I had to use a Force of Will and I only blue card was in Thassa's Oracle, I feel fine pitching it because I can always use Praetor's Grasp to steal opponent's Breach, to steal an opponent's Thassa's Oracle, to steal an opponent's Will to kill post Breach or whatever I want to do. And I personally am very bullish on Praetor's Grasp over Mnemonic Betrayal because of my play patterns of being turbo consistent and mid-range adaptive. All right. So in the early game, I've actually had this happen where I've gone like turn 2 Tithe into a main turn 3 Necropotence into immediately winning. I've had the game where like, damn, if this was a Mnemonic Betrayal, I'm not Rogsai, where I'm wheeling and dealing and filling up opponents' graveyards. So my opponents didn't have anything for me, but because I had a Praetor's Grasp, I was able to steal an opponent's Thassa's Oracle during my Final Fortune turn, post doing a turn 3 Necro play and push that same turn, and I was able to win right then, right there. And not to mention, a big thing also for Praetor's Grasp in this list is, say if Underworld Breach is gone, our 0-card combo is not dead, because we are able to replace Underworld Breach with Praetor's Grasp by just convoke casting along with the Burnt Offering in order to steal our opponent's Underworld Breach, and then we cast the Breach with using the extra mana from Burnt Offering, and we just go off with the same combo 10 mana 0-card combos before. Nothing changed, no switch outs or nothing, because it just uses black mana. Not to mention, one of my favorite keeps that I talk about for people is land Dark Ritual Praetor's Grasp. I just keep that and just steal a fish. If it's like a command tower or like a UC, I'll steal a fish and do a turn 2 fish. You can't really do that with Mnemonic Betrayal. So me trying to be aggressive in the early game, and with this as both a tutor and all the other stuff, I love Praetor's Grasp and all the utility for that. But that's not much to say Mnemonic Betrayal is bad. It just has better utility in turbo decks that are using more wheels, or in mid to late game decks that are looking more to wait until their opponents fill up their graveyards and do a win after, once their opponents have already kind of used up their gas and been stopped. And the last finisher, or the card that actually wins us the game, is Brain Freeze. Notably though, this is not an immediate finisher. This is one that you will Brain Freeze, empty your opponent's libraries, and then they will die. Notably though, big thing about this is because we're in a format where things can go instant speed, just be aware that there are times where if you are not careful, your opponents can win their upkeep with they can just win their upkeep with like a Born or Valley Flood Caller or whatever not. So yeah, just be aware of that. With that being said, I am currently looking for a slot for either I have a couple slots I'm looking for, but I want to re-add in either Windfall, maybe Fairy Mastermind, or some other card that allows me to win the same time that I Brain Freeze my opponents out, in the event that I lose both Thassa's Oracle and Praetor's Grasp, which can happen because I am a player who will aggressively use Demonic Consultation for a low mulligan game plan, or say if I'm going to lose the game, I still want to have outs. Like kind of like if I lose Thassa's, I still have Praetor's Grasp as an out. But if I lose both of these cards, then it's kind of like, okay, I can still win Brain Freeze, but if it's late enough in the game, our opponents can still win with those type of effects. With that being said, before I move over to Tutors, let's check the chat. Let's see how everybody's doing. We got ZKS saying, I got oppoed after casting Buried Alive, and that hurt like tripping down the steps. I'm so sorry, brother. I am so sorry, man. Now we got Small saying, dog, nothing feels worse than being oppoed with like 6 Dragon Storms in the stack and just gets my whole Dragon Pile exiled. Oh my gosh. Yeah, man. I mean, but the cool thing is that's why we still run win cons that don't include dragons. You know, like in Tiamat, we run Thassa's. In Scion, we run Thassa's. Also, recently in Tiamat, I've added Dual Caster Mage. We'll talk about it a little bit later. But no, that's why you got to run those win cons that don't include dragons, because if it does happen, what you gonna do? Well, you could go to Beats if you want to. 3 hits from what's it called? From Tiamat does get the job done. We got ZKS said, I genuinely considered scooping and selling my collection. Yeah, we got Small saying, yep, especially in my Tiamat deck that almost can't win without its dragons. That's fair. ZKS says, I need the tutorial to get my LGSs to use top decks so my elo can go up without having to drive 5 hours away. Yeah, I hear you there, brother. All right, let's keep slicing through these real quick. We got Tutors. Everything here we pretty much already talked about before. The only notable one that I'll bring up, we actually had your section down here before, is I am running Summoner's Pact. Notably notable targets are our turbo pieces like Elvish Spirit Guide and Tinderwall. Being able to convert post, Necro, or Ad Nauseam with this card is awesome. Also, being able to hold priority after casting it to offer you can't refuse it for the 2 treasures is awesome because not only do you get to make 2 mana of any colors, you turn 1 mana into 2 mana, which is really powerful. And of course, we have our Colossal Grave Reaver combo where you can go ahead and grab a Colossal Grave Reaver off of your Summoner's Pact. The other utility for that, though, is not just grabbing Colossal Grave Reaver when you're trying to win with it. Say if you're doing a late game Ad Nauseam and mana is not your issue, but you need a lot of cards. You can preemptively cast your Summoner's Pact to grab your Colossal Grave Reaver out your deck. So now you only have 1 dragon left in your deck. All right. So that increases the odds that you'll see more cards. And actually for the game, I actually did this in my LGS one time. Shout out to my homeboy Detrove. I discarded my Hoarding Brute Lord and he reanimated it on his board when he was playing a Kefka deck. And so I only had 1 dragon left in my deck. I cast a Voice of Victory. I had a bunch of mana and I just went ahead and cast Summoner's Pact. So like, I don't need any more mana. I need cards. So Colossal Grave Reaver being an 8-hit means that I can get this out the way. That means my highest hits in my deck is a Force of Will and the Misdirection. And that means I can go down as low as like 6-ish life instead of 9-ish life, which is substantial. And when you're pushing off of Ad Nauseam. And speaking of Ad Nauseam, this is one of the controversial picks for my list. For Ad Nauseam, what I have found in my lived experience is that, shout out to Bissy Baxon, the Kefka guy. He was the first one when I was showing him this Scion tech. He was like, why not? Why can't we do it? Like, I don't want to mispronounce his name. I always mispronounce it. I think it's Mad Dog or Bad Dog. Please forgive me. I always get it wrong. And everyone's going to correct me in the chat. And they're like, it's Bad Dog or it's Bad Dog. I just get it wrong. I've never met the guy personally, but I've heard nothing but great things about his intelligence and his IQ in the game. With that being said, his Kalia list runs Ad Nauseam plus a large amount of large creatures, and it's still a viable list. So then if I said, if I'm only running 2 8-drops, let's just see what happens. And I was pleasantly surprised where I found on average about like 65 to 85% of the time, I would only hit 1 dragon, meaning my Ad Nauseam usually started at 32 life. But because of the high card quality and conversion of just being a 5-color good stuff list, it means that I many times, I actually have a lot of gameplay recorded where I've cast a turn 2 Ad Nauseam and hit a dragon and still converted on the same turn. on this, no past turn, none of that, just converted on the same turn. And it's really disgusting what we can do ad nauseum in this list. But at the same time, because it's one of those it's one of our turbo 1 card anchors that use our life total, it's like, if we're trying to use in the early game, cool. If we're trying to use in the late game, cool. But if we do get our life hit down, remember that we still have our 0 card combo. And so that does not require our life total to be anywhere other than above 1. Yeah, or 1 or above. So yeah, just remember that when it comes to ad nauseum, you don't have to run this card. But for me, being turbo consistent with mid-range adaptability, I love it. Everything else here is pretty standard. I count Ragavan as card adventure because you can steal some key pieces. We also got things like Born and Ristic and Esper, Manamorphose for the single draw. These cantrip effects are pretty good, especially when you're doing Necropotence lines and all the other shenanigans with that. That's all good stuff. One big thing that I'll bring up about Necropotence notably is that with Necropotence, most pilots feel satisfied with 3 ways to convert, being Born Upon the Wind, Valley Flood Caller, and Final Fortune. I push that to where I like to have 5 effects to be able to convert, and I include Shallow Grave and Necromancy in those effects to be able to convert with either an instant speed Thassus or an instant speed Hoarding Brute into a Burnt Offering or whatever not to get out of Final Fortune and then win on the following turn. These are both things only possible because we do run that instant speed Reanimator package, meaning that when I'm pushing off a Necropotence, instead of looking for 3 cards, I now have 5 anchors for my Necropotence to help my consistency go up when I'm converting a turn 2 to turn 3 Necropotence, which is really hot because we can get Necro out on turn 1 to turn 2. With that being said, I do take note of our discard effects, only being Lion's Eye Diamond and Necropotence for our Thassus or Hoarding Brute Lord if we want to do some shenanigans with Shallow Grave or Necromancy like we brought up before. I am taking note. I'm actively still looking at Korvold because it's really good. And I just wanted to just see how many Korvold cards could do the thing. How many cards would trigger Korvold. They're cool, but really I'm looking at these treasure generators because it's mana plus cards. Not a lot, but I'm still thinking about it. With that being said, we're going to move on from card draw to ramp. And this is a pretty generic good stuff pile. Everything from offering City and Traders to help those early ad nauseums or help those mid to late game 0 card combos. We also have like a decent sized mana dork suite running Birds of Paradise, Deathrite Shaman. We've already brought up Ragavan, but also we are on Tinderwall as well as Ignoble Hierarch, if we can find that. Yep, there we go. We also got, let's see, the 2 mana rocks, Arcane Signet and Felwar Stone. I like having both of these in at least my ad nauseum Necropotence 5 color list because when I'm pushing turbo and I'm making a bunch of colorless and black mana for my black rituals and mana vaults and all that other stuff, I like to be able to color fix and help get my red, my green, and my blue pips and my red, green, blue, and white pips in those other situations that I don't find like my spirit guides or I need some more color fixing. I don't have like a Chrome Mox or Mox Diamond. But yeah, same good old stuff. We are on Culling the Week notably, and that's why we are on this pretty decently sized 1 mana dork package like the Ragavan, the Ignoble Hierarchs, the Lothos, not Appos, but Orcish Bowmasters. These are all things that help keep Culling the Week online. Notably, one of my favorite things to do is if I have 3 mana, I can flash in Orcish Bowmasters and then flash and then cast Culling the Week on the Orc Army token. So I've turned 3 mana into 4 at instant speed, and that 4th mana can help me convert into something as simple as like my 3 card combo with Entomb, Shallow Grave, Demonic Consultation, or maybe if I want to need it, maybe if I have a Spirit Guide, that's also in ad nauseum where I turned maybe 3 mana plus a Spirit Guide into 4 mana plus a Spirit Guide, which is instant speed ad nauseum. So we do love even our 2 mana cards like Orcish Bowmasters and even Lotho being able to get rid of those on Culling the Week. Outside that, we got the Gemstones. We are a Gemstones believer in this deck. We got the Manamorphose for color fixing, really great of turning our Spirit Guides into mana for Born Upon the Wind and Valley Flood Caller. We got the Lotus Petal, Mana Vault, Noxious Survival. As you can see, a lot of my list in this current era of TTC, I'm running 26 lands, and I usually count Noxious Survival as my 27th land, being able to grab my fetch lands back. Yes, it fucks my top deck up for turn, but making sure if like, hey, I already have the game plan in my hand, I just need to make sure I hit my land drops. So I love using Noxious Revival, not just as recursion, but also as another land drop. I like also using Sevinne's Reclamation to regrab lands from the graveyard, maybe off a Mox Diamond or a fetch land. We got the Rite of Flame, Spirit Guide, Smothering Tithe, of course. Soul Ring, we've already talked about Summoner's Pact and Tinderwall. And at that point, we also have a big one, which a lot of players may be on the wall about. I'm a really big proponent of Rain of Filth. Rain of Filth allows us to sack lands for black mana. And as a player who loves playing at instant speed or behind silence protection, this spell is fucking awesome. In my memory, there may have been one time, but in my memory, I've never been blown out with Rain of Filth. I've only intentionally blown myself out with the Rain of Filth because the one player got too far ahead and I needed Rain of Filth in order to do an instant speed Born Upon the Wind in order to copy another player's Dranith Magistrate, which the player ahead had a Dranith, so I wanted to lock them out of their own combo. Of their own breach combo. So that was the only time that I got blown out. But outside of that, if you're smart, you take your time, you have patience, prowess, and politics. To be honest, like Rain of Filth is awesome. Just be smart, take your time. Let's quickly check the chat, see how everybody's doing. We got ZK saying Dualcaster is hot because it gives you alternate options for Sonaf. I agree. We got Smol saying, is Necro still a viable option for my cEDH deck with only 2 anchors to go off immediately? ? I know the skill ceiling for what that card is extremely high, and I find myself misusing it enough that I want to cut it, but don't because I know its potential is worth the learning process. Let me see if he adds anything. See you use it in both decks lists, and that only makes me want to keep it more. Oh, 100% Smo. 100%. Oh, 100%. Let's go back to Necropotence. So Necropotence is a slam dunk. I will actually jump down. We'll jump down and actually we'll do our notable mentions now, and we'll come back to this later on. As you can see now in my section 9, I have, of course, my copy and clone effects, but I have my instant speed enablers, my instant speed reanimators, and my extra turn effects. All right. So for me, because I want a level of certainty when I brew and a level of certainty when I am executing my combos, I don't want to add Naus or Necro and not be able to convert. I know everybody says, oh, it just happens sometimes. For me though, I feel like, or I brew with the mindset of there is ways to make it happen. There is ways to increase the certainty level so you don't have to be in this situation of, oh, I tried my best, but it didn't work out. Or, oh, this, oh, that, oh, it's just all this hubbub and above, all this yap. And it's just like, hey, y'all, respectfully, there is a way to increase certainty. And it's not just by adding Last Chance and Chance for Glory or High Fate Trickster or what's the other one? Warrior's Oath to the list. You can add in these Reanimator enchantments being Shallow Grave or Necromancy to your list. And whether it's discarding your Thassa's Oracle to the cleanup step and using the exile triggers from Necropotence on the stack to bring them back, your Thassa's Oracle or your Hoarding Brute Lord back at instant speed to be able to win at that point, meaning you will need the Demonic Consultation or Tainted Pact in hand. Or if you already have the Entomb or Gifts Ungiven and a bunch of mana available to you, you could do the same thing while you still have all the cards in your hand. A little tougher with gifts because 4 mana for double Entomb is expensive, but it's still possible. Ultimately though, Necropotence is just a slam dunk, and I have found in my lived experience, the more ways you have to convert at instant speed, the better. Ultimately though, that's what I'll say. It's just a slam dunk to me. There are people who make it work with 3 and they accept the risk. Their risk tolerance is different where they're okay fumbling. For me though, I'm like, nah, if I do Necropotence, I want to convert. I want to win. There is no extra talking about that. That's just me though. There will be the occasional where it fails, but it's still possible. We'll talk about Necropotence in 2 in Tiamat. Necropotence in Tiamat is harder because the average CMC of your cards is just higher. It takes a much higher skill ceiling to convert Necropotence in Tiamat. But if you're talking about for Scion, It's like doing necropotence in like Roxai or like Blue Farm, that which this deck was built off of the Blue Farm of like 6-12 months ago, before the slot meta got super popular. But with all that being said, that's how you really do necropotence in specifically this cEDH brew, and it's super simple and just gets the job done. With that being said, let's get back into it. We just finished our ramp package. Here we go. Yeah, we just finished our ramp package. Actually, funny Rain and Filth necropotence story while we're here. I actually did a playtest. I'll actually tag you in this small. In the TC community, I did a playtest and broke it down where I kept a turn 2 necropotence with a LED using Rain and Filth. So I had tapped a land and then tapped for a black, sacked both lands for black, and I only had an LED left. And I went to the end step, cracked the LED for 3 red, so I can either do Manamorphose into a Born or Valley Floodcaller or into a Final Fortune, and was able to convert on turn 2 in this Scion list using a Rain and Filth, blowing my land package out. And I did it because I wanted to limit test my list, and once I saw I could do it, I was like, no, this list is fucking cracked. There's almost anything you can do. You just have to be willing to push yourself a little bit farther and be creative with it. And with that specific line, I notably used Entomb plus Savine's Reclamation plus more mana, and had Pact of Negation protection in that line in order to present a turn 2 Final Fortune win, like I said, with no land drops, with no lands left on my Final Fortune turn. I just had the land drop for that turn, but that's me. Notably, there are some other tips that I can give when it comes to the amount of life total you go down to. The easy tips I'll give just on the surface level is when I get progressed necropotence on turn 1 to turn 2, I will do the max hand size +1. Someone told me that, and I've been doing it ever since. So I'll do 8 on the first one. On the next, I'll go down to 6 life because I run Redirect Lightning, and I want to be able to use that, so I'll go down to 6 life. If I don't play Redirect Lightning, say if I'm playing Roxai or like the new Nick Fury or whatever not, I'll just go down to 5 life, and that's my sweet spot. But I'll go down to 6 if I am doing that, and that's including any damage from my lands and other things. I'll go, like if I have a City of Brass out, I'll go to 7 instead. And I just want to have 6 life, so Redirect Lightning is an option I can use, because I do have people in my meta. Shout out to Blazedkin, who run Endurance a lot. A lot of other cats in my meta do run Summoner's Pact, and because we have draws being actively used in our meta now, what they will and can do is offer a draw to the table, and they'd be like, hey, I can Endurance his graveyard when he's trying to reanimate that Thassa's during his cleanups, during his end step when he went to cleanup, and I can Endurance him. So me having Redirect Lightning online and being able to pay only the 1 red mana is a really great option for me. Plus the 6 life also helps out with, Mental Misstep, Noxious Revival with an offer you can't refuse, Force of Will with the life for that, Vampiric Tutor plus like a Manamorphose or Born Upon the Wind. There's a lot of shenanigans you could do with that, but yeah, all the really good stuff, last thing when it comes to mana though, I want to talk about big mana generators, and these are cards that either immediately or over time can create large amounts of mana, notably being Burnt Offering, Lotho, Rain and Filth, and Smothering Tithe. We've all played these cards, or I've touched on all these in this deck tech thus far, so I don't need to really touch on anything any further, but just know when you see these cards, there is a condition that they can help you generate a lot or enough mana to complete your 0-card Scion combos. All right, but moving on to removal and interaction, we have a pretty robust package, notably being offer for countering non-creature spells, Brain Freeze for top deck hate, Chain of Vapor. I will bring up a notable thing. I choose to run Chain of Vapor over into the Floodmaw on this list because I can use it for ramp by bouncing my own rocks, sacking my lands, feeding my Breach, and all the other things. It notably does have a little bit of negative synergy with Rain of Filth, but you have to use your prowess to know when to use Chain for ramp versus when to use Rain for ramp. And we also run Daze too, so it's a little bit of negative synergy with that as well. With all that being said though, I love Chain of Vapor in decks that love to win at instant speed, because even if you chain a Stax piece and they try to flash it back in, you can follow that up by locking the spell in the stack and pushing your combo at instant speed. So that's one of the reasons why I love Chain, especially when you're not too permanent based, or your permanents on board that you're comboing with aren't too high CMC. On the flip side, say if I am running, I would run Into the Flood Maw in decks that more like to run when behind permanent based silence effects like Dragonlord Dromoka, Voice of Victory, the Lord Jennifer Walters. I'm gonna say Watkins, but it's Walters. That means that I don't want my opponents to chain me back because I'm locked behind sorcery speed, but I'm winning behind protection. Meaning the Flood Maw is a better removal spell, even though I can't use it as like a ritual to bounce my rocks or to protect my own things. So it's pushes and pulls. I usually don't run both. I'll run either or. So I'll just tell you all now, I run Chain of Vapor in my Scion list. I run Into the Flood Maw in my Tiamat list, namely because if someone chains back my Dracogenesis after I've used Treasonous Ogre to cast it, or I cast it with the Burnt Offering or Hoarding Brute Lord, that bitch ain't coming back down. But if I were to Flood Maw something that was problematic to me, then I don't care after that point about giving someone a fish. We have days. It's a retesting slot for this list, notably. I'll bring up right here. If you check out my primer, I always actively keep up to date my current play testing. And I currently, once I figured out the new Colossal Grave Reaver combo, I put Days in over Windfall because I was able to take Windfall out as exile insurance for Brain Freeze. And also, I took Ormshant out. Not a bad card, but it's better at stopping people than protecting your own combos. For a little bit of time, I did try Permission Denied, but I ultimately landed on having both Jennifer Walters and Voice of Victory in this list over the Ormshant and Voice of Victory in the list. But that's just a little food for thought. The Days is just in because I wanted it to be free and I want to keep my blue count up, which we'll touch on in a little bit. Deathrite Shaman, Exile, Graveyard Exile, Disrupting Shoal. Ooh, I got to pause for a second. Disrupting Shoal is huge. Many people think it is only a turbo card. Many people think that it's only useful in, a control card. Many people think that it's only useful in control decks like Rock Ishai, in Kennen. I argue if you're intentional with your blue card count, and Flowers the Bissy, because he was the first one to bring up this term, if you're intentional with your blue card count and also your spread of blue mana, like you have enough 1, 2, and 3s to be able to adequately hit things, it's really great in any deck that wants to see a lot of cards. So we're talking about Ad Nauseam, post Ad Nauseam, post Necro. This is awesome in the turbo game. But in the mid to late game, Mystic Remora, Esper Sentinel, Rhystic Study, Disrupting Shoal also does work. I also find games when I am pivoting to my mid-range adaptive game plan, being able to pitch a Force Negation, or let's not use that as an example, being able to pitch, when I did have Windfall on my list, pitch a Windfall to a Disrupting Shoal to stop an opponent's turn 1 Rhystic Study is awesome. Because some decks, most decks, don't need to have no turn 1 Rhystic Study. And in that game specifically, I tried politicking with the player. They said, I'm gonna have to make you have it. And I said, cool, I got it. Disrupting Shoal, pitch the Windfall, keep it pushing. And we just kept it like that. So I find this card is really, really great. The last thing that I love about it is that it's an awesome bad counterspell filter. For example, Force Negation can only be used on your turn. Cool. Disrupting Shoal. Offer gives your opponents 2 treasures. Cool. Disrupting Shoal. It counters any spell, by the way. They have more than 2 mana, and they're casting a Thassa's. They're casting a, I don't fucking know. What's a 2 mana counter spell that people hit you with? Insert it. Or you're trying to counter their Thassa's. Cool. Pitch the Days to the Disrupting Shoal. Any of these spells that suck for some reason, oh, they're trying to force or will your shit, and or whatever, or they're trying to endurance you, and you want to pitch your Force Negation, or you want to have another Force Negation. A Force of Will. Misdirection becomes a Force of Will, misdirection, or you can hit 5 drops with that, being Ad Nauseam, being an opponent's Scion, being an opponent's Kefka, being an opponent's so many things. I can go for this to days. We keep counter our blue card counts, but the biggest last point that I'll bring on Disrupting Shoal is that it's an awesome blue card filter for cards that may not be the best answer at that time. Even the downsides of Chain of Vapor being that they can bounce your things back, or the downsides of Swan Song, giving them a token, whether it's a Cradle farm strategy or whether it is a Rock side deck and you don't want to give them a token because you know they have a diabolic intent. Disrupting Shoal. It's a really great answer. I know you're 2 for 1 yourself, but in decks, like I said, that are trying to see a lot of cards, whether it's in the early game from Necro opponents or Ad Nauseam, or in the late game from Mystic Remora, Rhystic Study, Esper Sentinel, or all those other things. It's just a great piece in general to be able to filter those pieces. And yes, there will be seldom times where you won't have the exact card CMC in hand. To that, I say you can always just hard cast it. We're a big mana deck because we are looking to do a 10 mana Scion combo consistently, at least as an option. So being able to pay 5 mana into this is not the end of the world because we play to our hand. We usually keep all our mana up and we're just pass and turn until we find our window. So paying 5 mana for a 3-drop, 3 mana for a 1-drop, or even 4 mana for a 2-drop is not the end of the world. So just wanted to bring that up. We are, though, playing Force Negation. We put on other people's turns quite often. Force Will, Fluster, Misdirection, Mental. Misdirection is over the Fierce Guardianship because we don't play our commander very often. I count Necromancy as interaction because, notably, like I brought up earlier, being able to grab an opponent's ranger captain with their crack on the stack is awesome. Being able to just grab someone else's target when they're trying to reanimate it, like just all the shenanigans. It's awesome. I love it. We got Ragavan 2. Top deck Tutor Hate. Praetor's Grasp can steal opponents' win cons or main combo pieces like a Basalt. Maybe you want to be a little spiteful and you want to hit the kidding player's Basalt. You can do that. I wouldn't recommend it. They have other win cons, but it's there for you. Got Path to Negation, Odawara as channel removal, Orcish Bowmasters as our singular board wipe. It was better once we had a wheel effect, but even now, there's so many people just trying to just mulligan for Rhystic Study. With Drone Politics, that Orcish Bowmasters will just wipe up the board and can actually be what I call a mid-range punisher, a card by itself that can punish the players who are trying to excel in the mid game, especially those Rhystic Study players. We have more Graveyard Hate with Noxious Revival, Redirect Lightning over Deflecting Swat because it's just 1 red mana plus 5 life. Even with Necro opponents and Ad Nauseam in the list, we do not care. We love Redirect Lightning because it's a better flip off Ad Nauseam. Not to mention, it's also great because we can't cast our commander very often. We got Silence, Swan Song, and Veil of Summer. And notably, I do count Saw and a Half as spot removal in a situational based thing. Say if they're trying to target one of their own things, you can fizzle the spell. Maybe it's, especially if it's like a legendary creature or some other things, being able to remove it when it's being targeted or remove it in a situational kind of thing, or even protect our own creatures and getting 2 of our own Espers or our own Orcish Bowmasters is really, really powerful. So we love that type of stuff. Both offensive and defensive, very powerful. Notably, I put here my Graveyard Hate here in this 5A section. And like I brought up earlier, I keep count of my blue card count. Notably, my sweet spot is it used to be 17 plus Force of Will, which is 18, but I found 19 to be my true seat spot, where I found that it's very seldomly that for my Misdirection, Disrupting Shoal, Force Negation, or Force of Will, I'm seldomly not going to be able to have a blue spell to pitch to it. Even if it means pitching my Thassa's Oracle, because I still have a Praetor's Grasp, or pitching my Brain Freeze, because I still can do my Colossal Grave Reaver plus Saw and Half combo. Like, these are all things that are possible because we're very intentional while we're brewing. All right. But before I move forward, I've been speeding through. Let's check the chat real quick. We got Smo saying, have you ever considered using Squandering Resources? I love it because it lets me hold extra mana I otherwise wouldn't have ever between turns if I need to interact in a grindy game, and then it becomes a DIY Rain of Filth when you need it. Ooh, let's check it out. So Squandering Resources, if I remember correctly, is the enchantment version of Rain of Filth, but it gives you colored mana instead. All right, so Squandering Resources, black and green enchantment, sacrifice a land, add 1 mana of any type the sacrifice land could produce. So I've seen pilots play it. Well, I've seen pilots include in their deck. And my biggest reason why I prioritize Rain of Filth is the instant speed and the 1 mana. Now, if we talk about I'm going to end up quoting this a lot tonight, why not both? Shout out to Gen Fusion. The biggest thing that I will say is slots are tight for my Scion and my Tiamat list. I will say, though, that I can't deny that if the game goes long enough, or if you have if you can convert this 2 mana into more mana, like say if it's turn 4 plus and you making your land drops, I could see it being pretty like a pretty powerful ritual. I'll just leave it there. I don't think it's bad. For my list, I'll say no for now. I've looked at it before and I'm re-looking at it now, just giving it another fair squeeze because I do rave over Rain of Filth all the time. But part of what I rave over Rain of Filth is because it's basically another copy of Dark Ritual as soon as turn 3, even turn 2 if it's your Final Fortune turn. So that's why I personally rave over Rain of Filth. Being able to make 2 lands, 2 mana into 3 mana, being able to turn 3 lands or 3 mana into 5 mana. That's basically a Dark Ritual, and it gets better as the game goes longer. 4 lands turns into 7 mana, 5 lands turns into 9 mana. Like 1 black into 9 mana, that's really, really powerful. And where squandering resources is good, but it takes a little bit longer to get that same exponential effect. It does notably let you progress it and then wait, but once again, we got to go back to the ThunderStorm style. I'm playing to my hand. So if I'm playing to my hand, if I progress this squander resources, I'm telling my opponents either I'm winning on my next turn or I'm setting up for a large play where I'm willing to sacrifice my lands as an additional resource. So it's kind of projecting what's going on, and it goes a little bit against my play style. But that doesn't take away from the power of the card, especially if you're looking for another way to be explosive and you don't mind either progressing it early or waiting a little bit longer before progressing squandering resources. So thank you, Smo. It's a very fair card, very fair card. All right, yeah, let's keep going. We have now, past our blue count, we have our Stax Tax. Now, if anyone knows the lore of TTC, I went from going control Marnius Calgar back in the day, Mox Masters, January, I think, and into realizing I don't want to Stax out the board. And I felt that way to this day, but then I realized I am staxing out the board when I play Rhystic Study, when I play Orcish Bowmasters, Mystic Remora, Lotho. Having people have to hesitate about giving me a Lotho trigger because of my commander is a type of stax. The same with Voice of Victory or Jennifer Walters being able to tell people you cannot do something during my turn, or Hexing Squelcher saying like, hey, you cannot counter my spells, or Esper Sentinel, same as Mystic Remora, Rhystic Study, or even Smothering Scythe saying, hey, every time you draw a card, even for the draw of your turn, I'm going to tax you for that. These are all stacks or tax effects, but unlike what people normally categorize as stacks or tax, it's a thing where it's like, yo, dude, like, if we look at the everything as a whole, these cards are just stronger because they give me a benefit. I'm not trying to slow you all down. Outside of Orcish Bowmasters, maybe Risk Study, Esper Sentinel, or Fish, but it's more of me trying to move my game plan forward. So of these stacks and tax effects, I've referenced this term before, but I do have things that I call mid-range punishers, notably being Mystic Remora, Orcish Bowmasters, Rhystic Study, and Smothering Tithe, cards that by themselves can warp the mid-game by themselves. And I also have light mid-range punishers being Esper and Lotho. They can warp, but a little less. It's more game by game, but they're a little more light on their impact on the game in the mid-game. But these are just huge cards. Seldomly will I ever cut these cards. I used to notably run Culling Ritual, which I also called that a mid-range punisher, but I've since been off Culling Ritual because it just, because the amount of people who just are running instant speed sound effects now, or just the extra slop piles who don't want all their treasures blown up, is either not going to resolve or you're going to get silenced, and it's just, you just lose the game because they'll win at instant speed. So I personally cut out Culling Ritual. Great card, but just in the metas I play in, people just ain't letting that shit resolve because it usually either converts into a win or bare minimum strips people from all their low mana resources, being treasures, mana rocks, mana dorks, all of the above. Next is our board and spell protection. This is a special category that is basically the same counter spells, same gist of all the other things, but I include a little bit more recursion, so we can jump straight to that package. Being we have our graveyard recursion, we've been talking about them all night, Shallow Grave, Necromancy, as well as our Sevine's Reclamation and Underworld Breach. Not to mention we also do have Noxious Revival, which is I brought you up as land ramp. It's just the perfect. You can ramp it with offer, you can't refuse. It does all this broken shit, and in addition, it can just be regular recursion. Say if we do an activation like Jim brought up and we want to do some extra Scion shenanigans, we can use Noxious Revival to do that. Yeah, so I love Noxious Revival, it being free, that Phyrexian mana cost in green decks, in turbo decks. It just feels like an auto include for my brews. Lastly, we do have both our silence effects and our light silence effects that I also call soft silence effects, okay? I prefer, similar to my instant speed effects, running 5 ways to silence the table or soft silence the table through Jennifer Walters, Voice of Victory, and Silence. I know we used to have Orm Chant here, but I'm testing Jennifer Walters over it. And I also like running my light silence effects of Hexing Squelcher and Veil of Summer. These are especially powerful, not just when you're winning on your turn, but when you're winning at instant speed. Where Jennifer Walters and Voice of Victory can only protect you on your turn, progressing a Hexing Squelcher into a Scion and then passing is devastating, because whenever they try to remove your Scion, say if you're sitting on those Smothering Tide treasures, you just start comboing off. They try to remove your Hexing Squelcher, you combo off on top of them. So for me, I see Hexing Squelcher as a silence effect for awesome for decks that have a lot of ways to win at instant speed. So it's just something I really, really love. Same with Veil of Summer, protection from Flusterstorm, all the shenanigans. It's just a powerful card. We know about Veil of Summer. I don't think I need to add anything on top of that. With that being said, we are entering the land-based category. Our time together on Scion is ending, but we still have some mulligans to touch on. Let's just be a little patient. Land base is pretty standard. Only notable things to bring up is, like I said earlier, cEDH traders in this deck to help out with early ad nauseums and late game Scion combos. So I love it in this deck. Not to mention it does become breach fuel when it's sacked. Also, you got early heuristic studies, paying for Mystic Remorse. I am the player who will sit on Mystic Remorse forever. As anybody in the TC community knows about me. We are on that Odawara over Boseiju. This is a TTC thing as well. I am not trying to control the table. I can, but I'm not trying to. I'm trying to win the game. With that being said, I love Odawara's better flexibility at removing things. Yes, Boseiju is cheaper. Many times can be a singular green mana, but it's better at stopping your opponents or disrupting your opponents. And my goal is to set up my position so I can be at parity with my opponents or past my opponents, even if it's silently past, because my cards are just better than them in my hand. So I'm not trying to stop a guy's cradle. I'm not trying to blow up a breach. If they got it, they got it. But like I said, there's a 65% win rate on this deck for a reason, and it's because we win the game. All right. With that being said, the last notable inclusion outside of Starting Town, which I'm noticing some people not including in 5-color decks, which is a little bit interesting. I wouldn't fully agree with that. Last is Tarnished Citadel. Currently in this list, I am pondering on putting Gemstone Mine in the deck above Tarnished Citadel. But for now, the 3 life lost from the Tarnished Citadel, even if I'm going into Ad Nauseam Necro, is not the end of the world. Because we're in 5-color, we have a lot of options to convert main phase Ad Nauseams and same turn Necro potencies. But if I ever do notice a trend where I'm losing because of that life drain, then I 100% would recommend, for myself and for anyone else experiencing this, just put in Gemstone Mine over Tarnished Citadel and just be conscious about overusing it for utility, because after it is used 3 times, whether it's on your turn or an extra Final Fortune turn, it will just sack itself. But you can't always Noxious Revival it back, but it's just, you have to keep that in mind. And like last category, clones and copy effects. All right. I used to run Phyrexian Metamorph or Mockingbird as a staple. I've since let them go along with Ranger Captain because 3 mana double white's tough. But I still do love Saw in Half. Whether you are still on Windfall or Wheel of Fortune and you copy your Orcish Bowmasters a bunch of times with Saw in Half to just do 1 wheel and kill the table, or you want double Espers or double OBMs, or you want double any of the creatures that we regularly run. If we just go back here and we check out this tags menu, whether it's double Mana Dork, of course, Hoarding Brute Lord or Colossal Grave Reaver, but all this stuff is just awesome to have options. You know what I'm saying? Even if you already progressed your Thassa's for value or you got stopped, being able to Saw in Half later on to retry your Thassa's is really powerful, especially because it's at instant speed and increases your devotion some. So these are all, I just love Saw in Half, and it's one of the reasons I love running Reanimator. Many people's gripe with it is that they say, oh, it's so many dead cards. I challenge that and say, well, how creative are you with the application and usage of the cards that you were calling dead? But with all that being said, man, that was that was our decks overview. Last of the sideboard, there's nothing really much to talk about here. Most of these cards we've already touched on or talked about in some flavor, in some type of way. These are all just cards that I'm thinking about for some other way. If you all do have any questions about like, why is that in your sideboard, or why is that in your sideboard, just go ahead and shoot me a little comment on Moxfield and I'll be happy to answer your questions. But with that being said, before we get into our playtest hands and our big deck tech of the night, our Tiamat deck tech, which is coming, I just want to give a quick shout out to myself for the one-on-one level up sessions that I offer. If you're looking for some help on Tiamat, Scion, or any of your personal brews, not only do I have the TC community to help in that group environment, but if you want special one-on-one help with me, check out my link in the bio to get one-on-one level up sessions with me, where we touch on everything you want to know, or live gameplay where I can sit on the side, take notes, record the game, and give you feedback after the game. So if any of that tickles your fancy and you really want to take your game or brewing to the next level, check out the link in the bio for one-on-one level up sessions with TTC. But with that said, let's get back to the show. All right, we are nearing the end, so sad, of this deck tech. I want to very quickly, before we go into our mulligans, I just want to give people just a quick little just pull back to reality, because we are doing 2 decks tonight, and many people are going to have the question of, well, how do you choose between Scion and Tiamat? Like, really, TTC, how do you choose? Because you talk about them both so highly. How do you know when to play either one? What environments are either strong in? And honestly, like, why would you play 2 Wooburg Dragons? Are you just a dragon fan? To be honest, no. They're both broken in their own type of way, but both have their benefits, okay? For Scion, the reason you will play Scion over Tiamat is objectively, on paper, it is stronger. Even with people knowing about what I'm doing, and I lose Brewer's advantage in my own community for both Tiamat and Scion, Scion still comes out ahead. Also, it does just have a higher average card quality, and it objectively, well, this is me subjectively speaking, I find it to be easier to win with because you have less clunky top decks, and it's just a smoother win. Breach Thassus, we all know it's good from Blue Farm and Rockside. It's just easy to get done. So if that's what you're really looking for from your list, definitely check out Sign of the Ur-Dragon. With that being said, don't just play Sign of the Ur-Dragon to just win more games. There are a lot of decks that can help you win more games. It has its own unique profile and its own advantages. And even though I will say objectively on paper, it's stronger than Tiamat, there is many pilots who will find more success playing Tiamat because of their personal player profile. And we'll talk more about that later on within Tiamat. But one of the biggest things about Tiamat is the journey there is so much more enjoyable. This deck, you're pretty much most games going to be doing this similar thing. Be patient, win the mid to late game at instant speed or bind silence protection, or jam early. And it's when necroponents are add-ons or gifts. Pretty same thing pretty often. And that can get boring to people. And they may start to make little user errors because I'm like, dude, I just made a mistake. I just didn't care. I just got bored. But if you want each game to be more dynamic and you want to enjoy the journey to winning, that's why I recommend Tiamat. But we'll talk a lot more on that later on. With that said, though, let's touch on some mulligan tips, because I've been talking about these 1-card anchors and all these other things, and now we got to get into the meat of it. We got to really get into like AOT, like, I'm trying to win the game now. Talk to me, brother. I got you. First, I'm going to use my Eldrazi's playtester to set up a mulligan. We got our Sign of the Ur-Dragon. I'm going to give myself a new pod. In this pod, we have a seat 1 Sign of the Ur-Dragon, seat 2 Thrash Yoshi, so we got a little Gaia's Cradle action going, seat 3 Atali, that's a little scary, and we have a seat 4 Derevi Imperial Tactician. Could be more Cradle stuff, could be slop. We don't really know what they're doing, but a little pre-game politics could help out with that. But no matter what, we have 2 turbo decks being us and Atali on the board, 2 mid-range decks being Thrashios and Derevi. Potentially a little fast stuff from Derevi if they get that early 1 ring out, but overall, that's what I'm seeing from this pod comp. So we're going to look at a first 7 and see what we got. So we're going to see a fresh 7, and this is our first 7. So, okay, so this is awesome. We have a turn. Okay, so this is, all right, so this is, it's good. Let me make this clear. It's good. It could be better, though. So we have a turn, depending on what we top deck, we have a turn 2 to 3 ad nauseum, and we also have gifts in hand, which is great because now I'm not going to hit this 4-drop when I pop off at ad nauseum. So it's cool. It's cool. I dig it. Okay. What I'll say with this is I'd keep this because it's pretty flexible, where depending on the mulligans for my opponents, that Enlightened Tutor says multiple things. That Enlightened Tutor says Mystic Remora or Esper since it'll turn 2. It also just says Mana Vault, depending on how my opponents play turn 1, because all I have to do is progress that Arid Mesa for a scrub land and just then push out the Enlightened Tutor. Or for a Tundra, depending if I want to get a fish, or if I want to do the Gifts Ungiven line. Like, I have multiple avenues. Say if like Atali gets out something on turn 1 and it's like fucking crazy, I also have that fetch to do a Redirect Lightning, say to back up another opponent's counterspell. And like, say if they have something for that, like a Red Blast, I can Redirect Lightning and protect the protect whatever counterspell they have or whatever not. So this is a super flexible hand. Interaction, 2 turbo 1 card anchors, and the tutor to help us get the mana. Yeah, this is a keep. This is the definition of what we talked about with turbo 1 card anchors. We have 2 in the hand. This is exactly what I'm also talking about. You don't, like, for pilots who may not be fancy on Gifts Ungiven and Savines, you didn't need it in this hand. Or for pilots who don't want to run ad nauseum, you didn't really need it in this hand. You had multiple options. I love having both because I can either go for something more long term. I can push the ad nauseum, and if I'm blown out, I've still got gifts in the hand. Like, gives me a lot of options. So all I'll do with this hand is just draw 1 more card to see what the top deck is. And it's a Wishclaw Talisman, a little bit slow, but all I would do with this hand, depending on how the players play on the first turn, on everyone's first turns, I would Enlightened Tutor for either a Mana Vault for the gifts or ad nauseum, or for a fish or esper to be able to pry on the what's it called, on the Itali on seat 3. Like, if they're talking about it, oh, I got a bunch of draw, I got some for Itali, then I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna push. I'm either gonna try to push after Itali, but at the same time, if I get a Mana Vault and just pass, I'm telling if I tutor for a Mana Vault, I'm telling them, oh, he probably got ad nauseum. And then the question comes up, are you playing ad nauseum? And then now it's the politic of, hey, if I stop Atali, you can't win next turn, da. So that's where I may just use the e-tutor for a fish and just hold onto the gifts and ad nauseum for a little bit of time. But that's what I would do with this hand. Also, it'll be a hand where Gemstone Mine wouldn't have been terrible. It could feed the Gifts Ungiven on turn 3 as well, as just we don't care. So I'm still heavily thinking about Gemstone Mine over Tarnished Citadel. But let's do another mulligan. One more. Let's do it because these just damn as fire. All right. Oh, another one we're going first, but ooh, much faster pod. Okay. Sir, we're seat 1 Scion, Ral is seat 2, Italia is seat 3, and Thrasios Temna is seat 4. So they're obviously mulliganing for a draw engine to get something out on turn 1 to 2. Hopefully some interaction as well. Ral is the scarier deck for me because, yes, Atali can get some good stuff, but Ral is not a really great deck for them. But they can feed off symbiotically off us being a good stuff list and Thras Temna being a good stuff list. So Itali's a little worse, so I'm really looking at Ral, especially because they can win on soon as turn 1 to turn 2. Kind of give me that, on the line feeling. So what I'll say is for this, before I even look at the first 7, I'm thinking in my head, dude, I want to try to win on turn 2, however that fuck is. And if I can't win on turn 2, then I want to turn 1 Fish or Esper. Along with some interaction to be able to disrupt Ral early, but with double turbo decks, I'd need to talk with Thras Temna and be like, hey, I'm mulliganing, I found a piece of interaction for stop 1 player, can you stop the other player? They'd be like, cool, let's get into this mid game. So, and we can thrive in the mid game much better than Ral and Itali. So yeah, but let's see what our mulligans are. First 7, it's Scrubland, Silence, Mystical Tutor, Born Upon the Wind, Rhystic Study, Final Fortune, and Veil of Summer. Tough hand. We do have this interaction, but the color fixing is shot, so I would throw this hand away just because past silencing Ral or Itali, we're not doing anything else this game. So I'm gonna see a second 7. We have our second 7 here, and this is it's if I was trying to intentionally cuck the Ral player, I would keep this disrupting show to counter their Ral. Pitching my Brain Freeze, I can still win without Brain Freeze, even though now I'm not on wheel. But without another tutor to help me find this entomb, like I have none of my recursion pieces to go along with my tomb, not even another like ramp piece. Like even if I had like a Savines Reclamation, I could instep entomb like a Rhystic Study or something, but it's just the Jennifer Walters here. So notably, if this was an Orange Chant, I'd be able to stop both players because I could hit both players, but then all of my gas is going into stopping people, and I don't have anything else to do. So I'm gonna go check out a 6. Okay, this is a Mana Confluence, Felwar, Esper, Rhystic Study, Cabal Ritual, Shallow Grave, and Redirect Lightning. So on seat 1, okay, let me just make this clear. On seat 1, there's a lot of players who would say, ship it, T, ship it. And to what TTC says is, I'm a big Esper guy. I will keep the 1-land Esper land. Yes, I can get blown out by a mental misstep, but the only player who's really would mental misstep me is, who can, of course, is Ral and Thrastimna. I don't think Ral would mental misstep it because they don't know I'm keeping a 1-land hand that's built off this. And also, statistically speaking, the average number of lands in the opening hand is 1.84. So I'm likely to hit a land drop in the first 2 draws. So I'm not even worried about not hitting my second land drop. But my biggest thing that's going through my head is like, I'm okay keeping this hand because I know my deck. I trust my deck. And getting turn 1 Esper down and holding a Redirect Lightning, as well as any other interaction I get to the top of my library, is great. And I can get into the mid game even more with the Rhystic Study, kind of go double engines against the Thrastimna deck. I also have one of my pieces being Shallow Grave in my hand, and I also have a Cabal Ritual to help get into that Shallow Grave combo, whether it be into Hoarding Brute Lord or Thassa's Oracle. So this is everything I want, and I would definitely just bottom this Felwar Stone. I totally could see why someone would want to keep it, because if you get another land drop in the first 2 turns, you could Felwar on turn 2 and then Rhystic Study on turn 3 with maybe another land drop to have a protected Rhystic Study. So there is a universe where you may want to bottom the Cabal or the Shallow Grave. For me though, because one of my outs that can really help me like just turn the corner quickly is, say if my turn 1 Esper goes great and I hit a Necropotence. Now if I hit land Necropotence and I hit like a LED, I can push on turn 2 and just go all in on turn 2. Yes, it would include me discarding the Shallow Grave, one of my instant speed enablers, but at that point I'm discarding my Redirect Lightning. I'm going down to like 3 to 5 life to go all in on turn 2, even despite the fact that I already dinked myself at that point twice from that Mana Confluence. So I'd keep this, definitely would bottom the Felwar Stone, and we'll see our 1 draw for turn. Disrupting Show, we fucking love this. We can pitch. I was literally thinking about this in my head. I was like, oh shit, I can always just pitch the Rhystic Study to any things. So this Rhystic Study is talking about hitting the Necropotence or Rhystic Study from player 4. So we could definitely do some politics with them. We can hit critical hits like a Food Chain off of the Itali. We can also hit a Jessica's Will off of the Rao. So this is just an all around like a really super solid Disrupting Show, super solid. And just for the kicks and giggles, because we had a turn 1 Esper, I usually roll a D4 for Esper to see how many draws we get. And I roll the 4. So let's just see what those last 4 draws are. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So we are looking at a Scrubland, Saw and a Half, Mental Misstep, and a Gemstone Caverns. I love the Mental Misstep to be able to hit those early rituals from Ral and Itali. I also do love how we did get that 3rd land drop already, so we know we can progress the Rhystic Study, notably for those who are just entering. Felwar Stone would have gone to the bottom of the library. Nothing really to add on top of this. That it has 2-piece interaction. I got a Saw and a Half in hand and a Shallow Grave in hand, meaning I'm looking for just an Entomb effect, and I can win the game for about 3 to 6 mana. I can win this game. So all I need to do is be patient, even if it means sitting on the Esper Sentinel and just being patient. So that's all cool stuff. With that being said, this was our 2 mulligans. We did both of them at the 4ths in the first seat. Let's do 1 more mulligan and see what happens if we're not in the first seat though. And I can give you all kind of that perspective of how I navigate the deck from the back foot. So 1 more mulligan. All right, we're 3rd seat now. We have a Tiamat seat 1. Got some Stax going on seat 1. We got Stax. Some top decks are a little bit lighter on Stax recently, so it's a hard to interact with deck. We have a little bit of spot removal, so I am worried about those decks that can break parity on my small spot removal package. We got another Thrastimna, good stuff pile. Can win quickly depending on the pilot and the brewer. And we have us seat 3 and Rockside seat 4. Okay, 2 turbo decks, 2 mid-range decks. Let's see what we get. All right, deal another hand. Here's our first 7, and I love this. I see a land into Elvish Spirit Guide on Tinderwall. This is a turn 1 Tithe, unless I am mistaken. 1, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is a turn 1 tithe. Like, and I can, if I draw another land on top, I can pitch the Brain Freeze to the Chromox because I got the zero mana Colossal Grave Reaver. What's this pot as well? What's this pot as well? Okay, this is a turn 1 tithe. Unless player 1 plays a Deafening Silence, which means it'll be a turn 2 tithe. It's not the end of the world. This is a game where I have a board in hand too. I would pitch the Brain Freeze if I had to and just be patient with the instant speed Scion. Literally, that's what I would do. Let player 1 and 2 focus on Roxai, and for us, we would just sit there with the Born, and so we were looking for 12 mana to win at instant speed. Yeah, just wait for that perfect window. If I wanted to be more interactive, though, I could see myself wanting to do some top deck Tutor Hate with the Brain Freeze, but I really wouldn't want to Brain Freeze Tiamat. That would suck. Thrastimna got a little bit of recursion, just a little bit, with their 4 mana creature, and Roxai, I would not want to Brain Freeze them, so I can see myself pitching the Brain Freeze. I'd snap keep this turn 1 tithe, and we draw 1 card, another lane. Like I said, I would push the Brain Freeze under the Chromox. Either now I'm not pivoting, but I'm pivoting to either win with Praetor's Grasp, Thassa's Oracle, or with a Colossal Grave Reaver line to get in those 2 things. So that's what this combo's going for. Yeah. I usually roll a d6 for amount of treasures. Depending on how my opponents progress, this can be as soon as with a 3rd land drop, that'd be 3 mana turn 2 without tithe treasures. Depending on the number of treasures, we can present as early as turn 2 at instant speed. Maybe not on our turn, but on the cycle on other people's turn 3, and we just chill. And we can make a deal like, hey, I won't cast Scion on my turn if that makes you all feel better. I got 1 card left in hand, and what's the chances the last card be a Born? Yeah, these are just great mulligans. I don't know what to tell you guys. I told you guys, like, the card quality is just fucking high. So, but yes, it is biblical levels agreed against a Roxai player, 100%. But you want to know something crazy? If I lose a Roxai, it's okay, because I'm gonna seed ahead of them. And with the Born, if my opponents lean 2 things. Oh yeah, let me lean into that because you're correct. You're correct. Against the Roxai player, it is biblical levels of greed, okay? They can win on turn 1. What is the likelihood? Unlikely. They could win on turn 2 pretty consistently, but with a Thrastimna in this pod and a Time in this pod, I'm pretty sure that they will handle that shit. And with my TTC tongue, I'm straight up going to tell them, hey, I'm going to get this tithe out. How many turns do you not want to see Scion? They say, not till turn 3+. I'm like, cool, that's enough time for y'all to get your engines down, all this, like, cool, whatever not. And we can do the politics. Even if I'm gonna cast Sign, but I'm gonna use it to go get an engine instead. I will not win the game, or however I want to do it. But ultimately, I'm putting the responsibility of stopping Roxai on player 1, count stacks a lot, and player 2, mid-range control deck, most likely a slop deck, if not doing some cradle shenanigans. Either way, this is you guys' problem. I'm in seat 3, y'all are first 2 seats. So that's why I personally feel so comfortable doing this. Now, Roxai was in first seat, we're having a different conversation. Is it a gas hand to throw away? Yes. But it can be more argued based on the pod composition and the player profiles to throw the hand away, because there is no way to guarantee that I get to the turn 2 to 3 Scion combo, even with a turn 1 Smothering Tithe. Yeah, I'd say they're right. Yeah, with the turn 1 Smothering Tithe. So yeah, I would keep this hand, pod comp, player profiles, and just my actual deck and what I'm expecting from the pod. Unless both seat 1 and seat 2 go down to moles to motherfucking 2 and 3 and Roxai's on the 7, I'm keeping this hand, bro. That's just me though. Real quick, let's see. We got Smo saying, would you ever run Pinnacle Monk in the deck for an infinite mana option while also being a MDFC? I'm sure you're familiar, but Hoarding Brute Lord, get Saw, get Pinnacle Monk, use Burnt Offering plus Pinnacle Monk plus Saw in half for infinite mana. So the TLDR is no, because of ad nauseum. Similar reason why I'm not running Sink in the Stupor, even though I love Sink in the Stupor. But the simple answer is no, I don't want to add in another 5-drop. But I've actually thought about that in my Tiamat list that doesn't care as much about CMC, and that was a combo that I was running before eventually getting on Dualcaster Mage. Shout out to Sir Trekkie when it comes to that. So the answer to that is for Scion, no. For Tiamat, if you want to, I wouldn't knock it at all. The 3 life from the land is negotiable, is like nothing. You can always just let it come in tapped if you don't care about it. It's a combo piece, it's recursion, it's everything. And it's really, really good. I will also say when we talk about the output of what we can do with infinite mana, you can also like loop your instants and sorceries in graveyard. So if you have a demonic tutor, you can cast your demonic tutor over and over by looping post infinite and black red mana. You can, let's go to Pinnacle Monk real quick so people actually can know, because people may not know what Pinnacle Monk is. Contrary to popular belief, I love this card. Prowess, 3 colors and 2 red. When this creature enters, return target instant or sorcery card from your graveyard to your hand. So you can loop your instants and sorceries in your graveyard to, like, Manamorphose lets you draw your deck, plus makes a bunch of colored mana. It's like a lot of really cool stuff. The biggest knock to this card is that 5 mana CMC for this deck on ad nauseum. I'm okay with the risk with the misdirection and force of will. Also okay with my 8 drops of Hoarding Brute Lord and Colossal Grave Reaver. But for this list, I have to say no to Pinnacle Monk. But like I said, if you want to run that in your Tiamat list, I would not say no. I don't want to have another single colored land in my Tiamat list. But for pilots who run Pinnacle Monk, I never knock it because I'm like, it is a combo piece. It is more sorcery speed based because Pinnacle Monk itself is a sorcery speed creature. But there's a lot of combos you can do. And we'll actually, if you would like, bring that question back up when we touch on Tiamat in a little bit, so I can run through all the combos that I was personally able to find with all the cards I run, like making infinite copies of Pinnacle Monk with Saw and Half plus Shallow Grave, which is fucking cool. So that's my opinion on that. Last we say, oh yeah, turn what's out with people love. Yeah, 100%. But yeah, with that being said, that is this list, you all. That is the ins, the outs, all the other things, and that's the gist of it, dudes. Like, that is the gist of this list. Like, if I can just be completely frank, this list is fucking awesome. I love it so much. I really don't have anything else to add other than you all, like, keep being great when it comes to Scion. If this is the deck for you, please check it out. But with that being said, I have to give humongous shout outs to a bunch of things. First, once again, to the ThunderConductor community Discord for being amazing. Shout out to the TC Tech Guard and also our TC Vanguards, our leadership team within that community. Shout out for all the people who continue to try to take the TC Slayer titles from me. I see you all and I love you all, but I'm gonna keep winning these games. If you're not familiar, the TC Slayer is our competitive system. Help us have some more encouragement by winning prizes at the end of the month. If you either win our Iron Man title for holding the titles for the longest, or the King of the Hill title where you win by holding the title at the end of the month. But the whole point is to encourage people to jam games with their brews that they create, because we are a brewing focused community where we focus on the 4 values of accountability, curiosity, mutual respect, and teachability, all within a growth mindset. So if those values resonate with you, please check out the TC community Discord, bring your brews, and let's help get them to the next level, and then help you get some prizes at the end of the month with the TC Slayer system. Also, I'm going to give a humongous shout out to the Thunder Legion Patreon community. None of this would be possible without them. That is the main way, well, one of the main ways to support me and the channel and able to continue to increase prizes for TC Slayer, as well as increase the production level of everything we're doing by checking us out on the Thunder Legion Patreon. And last thing, I also want to give a humongous shout out to our Is It tier patrons, notably being Prater, MTG Reaper, Blazitkin, Azzy, Daryl, and Jim Fusion. You all rock, and you keep the lights on the way that you could not imagine. But with that being said, y'all be amazing, y'all be great. And the last thing I want to bring up is, once again, those one-on-one level up sessions. If you love this deck tech with Scion, and when you're about to see the Tiamat deck tech, and you say, hey dude, I like both of those decks, and I know we have the community talks, but can I talk with you one-on-one? Don't worry, check out the link in the bio to join the discussion one-on-one and be able to get my full insights and my full processes and how I create this brew and how to make the brew tailored to your player profile. But with that being said, check the link out in the bio for all those things. But I will see you all back in just a little bit after we take a small break and get into our Tiamat brew. But y'all be easy, y'all be great. Peace.